What's up, guys? Go ahead and smash that like button because it's free, at least for now. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video, and drop anything in the comments just so I know you're alive. And without further ado, let's get into the video. The story begins at night with someone panting. A little boy and a little girl are trying to hide while a wolf passes nearby. The red-haired boy, even though he is wounded, says those humans are his and that he will not let the wolf touch them. The wolf growls and jumps toward them. The red-haired boy holds the sword with his mouth and wonders why he is protecting those humans. He jumps at the wolf with the sword to strike it, but ends up being thrown far away. The red-haired boy is trembling a lot and wonders how things ended up like this. The wolf, even with one injured eye, advances to attack, and the red-haired boy wonders if God is punishing him, starting to scream while thinking that all of this is Mankel's fault. He never expected anyone would succeed, but they did. They defeated him successfully. 1,000 years have already passed. His species was almost completely exterminated. He himself was originally supposed to take revenge on humanity, but now everything is over, until someone notices a sound. A young man says he is so cute. The protagonist has been reborn in the body of a baby and is in a man's arms. Without understanding anything, he asks why he is in the arms of a human. The protagonist begins to cry and wonders if he has turned into a human, wishing that filthy human would let him go. The man holding the baby in his arms tells his wife that it seems the baby likes him and asks what is wrong with the boy. The baby spits in his face. The man becomes very disgusted and places the baby on the bed with the woman. The woman picks up the baby and calls him Ray, saying, "Welcome to this world." The protagonist wonders, Ray, and thinks it is a ridiculous name. 4 years later, the protagonist is lying on the ground saying he cannot perform those movements at all because a human body is very weak. 4 years have passed. However, besides Ray's hair gradually turning red, he still has not gotten used to the rest of that body and wonders at this pace when he will finally be able to take revenge, until someone approaches and asks revenge against whom. The protagonist takes an attack stance and asks who is there, until Ray notices something. It is a blonde little girl who asks if he is alright and says she did not mean to scare him. She says her name is Amy and that she lives in the village. She saw him there alone despite the late hour and wanted to remind him to go down the mountain. The protagonist says she really scared him and asks if that place is very dangerous. Amy says it is fine during the day, but that the place is very close to the forest, and demonic beasts may appear there after nightfall. Ray asks about demonic beasts, saying she seems to know a lot. Amy replies that she does not really know that much. She only knows that place better because she often collects wild fruits and vegetables there. Since it will soon get dark, they should go down the mountain together. The protagonist says that is fine, and when he is about to say his name, Amy already knows and says he is very well known in the village. Ray thinks that he is indeed well known because people judge him a lot because of his red hair. Some even said he was cursed and did not want to let their children near him. In this world, humans consider red the most sinister color because legends say that the entire magical world is ruled by a single red dragon. The war between humanity and the dragon race has lasted hundreds, perhaps thousands of years. Although few have seen it, that legendary red dragon was considered by humans to be the very embodiment of evil. The protagonist thinks that although that is how the story is told, in truth he did not have the opportunity to meet many humans in his past life. Amy asks what he is thinking about. Ray replies that he is coming and asks if she goes there every day. Amy answers that she does, more or less, because the fruits grow very well there. She asks if he has not also been going there frequently lately, and the protagonist says that she has indeed seen him there. Amy agrees, saying she sees him every time she comes to pick fruit and asks if he is practicing with the sword. Ray says yes, and that he wants to become a swordsman. Later, in another place, someone calls them and the two stop walking. A boy tells Ray to stay away from his little sister. Amy asks what Gary is trying to do, saying Ray did nothing to her. Gary says Ray will regret it if he sees him near his sister again. The two boys with him say that Ray should help them by leaving the village, because he is someone cursed and will only bring misfortune. Therefore, he should do them a favor and go away. They also say his parents should leave as well, because it is their fault for having a son like him. The protagonist becomes filled with anger, calls one of them out and punches him. Gary steps forward, the tension rises and he is pushed. Ray tells them not to stand in his way because he only wants to beat up the one who dishonored his parents. Gary replies that he should not complain if he gets beaten because Ray was the one who started it, and that he does not want to take his pathetic life. Amy grabs the sword and says her brother should stop. The protagonist places his sword on the ground and says that works as well because he does not want to use his either, and that they can all come at him at the same time since he does not care. On another day, a voice comments that it heard her children decided to take the entrance exam for the Knight's Academy and asks if it can congratulate her in advance. A woman who is buying fruit replies that they only decided to take the selection test, but whether they pass or not is another matter. The vendor tells her not to say that because her children are simply incredible and asks who else would even have a chance to enter if not them. The woman says he really knows how to use words, but that her children are working very hard to practice their sword skills. The protagonist walks by and the two stop talking while staring at him. The vendor comments that he heard that child will also participate in the knight's selection test, and the woman replies that the Avria Knights Academy would never accept someone who brings so much misfortune. Somewhere else, a voice says he has arrived home, and the mother asks why he came back so late, saying it is already time to eat and asking if he got into a fight. The protagonist replies that he did not, saying he got that during training. The mother asks if those boys bullied him again, but Ray answers that of course not. The woman tells him to hurry and wash up and take care of those wounds because it would be bad if they left scars, but the protagonist says he is a man and that it is fine. The father comments that it seems he has been working very hard to train his sword skills. The woman replies that it is all his fault and asks why he's making the boy fight those stupid training dummies, saying he is still very young. The man replies asking what else he could do, since Ray would not be able to enter the Avria Knights Academy if he could not even defeat a wooden training dummy. The wife says he does not need to become just like his father, and that he could follow other professions in the future, but the husband replies that his son is a genius, and that even if he could not become a mage, he is sure he can still become a swordsman. Suddenly, flames spread, and the husband says they already agreed not to use magic inside the house. The wife replies that that is enough nonsense and says she will beat him today. Ray thinks that although his parents are rare adventurers, it seems he did not inherit any of their talents. He wonders if he had managed to become a mage back then, he would have ended up like that as well. Sometime earlier during the mage selection test, the elder said he was very sorry, but that the boy did not seem to have any talent for magic. The woman, outraged, asked if he had made some mistake and said that she herself was a mage who graduated from that academy. The protagonist thought that stupid orb needed to be broken. The elder apologized and said he could not help. Ray thought that had to be a joke and wondered if the old man knew who she was, since his mother was a regent of magic. The protagonist pulled the elder's mustache and wondered how he could possibly not have talent for magic, thinking the old man was lying. Ray kept pulling his mustache and the elder began to scream while calling for the guards. The protagonist thought that the dragon of the legends could not use magic after reincarnating and that it was a huge joke. Until one day his father approached carrying a sword and said it was for him and that he could consider it a birthday present. Even if he could not become a mage, he could still become a swordsman like his father. Ray thought that was great and that there was still hope for him. As long as he became a swordsman, he would still be able to take revenge on humanity. In the present, the protagonist bangs his fork on the table and thinks that he hates humanity except for those two. At night, a voice tells Ray not to stay up too late training. In the barn, the protagonist is training with his wooden target and thinks he already completely understands the techniques and movements. The two exchange blows, and Ray advances thinking he only needs to find a flaw in its defense. Until the target raises its shield and the protagonist realizes that is the opportunity. Ray moves quickly and advances toward it, but the target manages to dodge, and the protagonist ends up being struck from behind. The robot announces that level 1 failed and that the system must stop now. Ray kneels on the ground and says he already found the cleanest way to pass, asking why his body could not keep up and whether he can really become a swordsman. Before that, in the forest, someone throws something and it is Gary. Ray ends up falling to the ground. Gary says he still has a long way to go and that he should stop dreaming about becoming a swordsman, telling him to go do something more appropriate for his level. In the present, the protagonist, lying on the ground, sighs, sits up, and says to continue with level 1. Somewhere else, Amy comments that her brother exaggerated today. Gary says that symbol of misfortune asked for it, and that she should also stay away from him in the future, making sure he does not contaminate her with his red hair. He also says that if he keeps clinging to her, he will teach him a lesson. Amy hits him on the head, leaving a big bump, but at that moment Gary notices that his armor is dented. The next day, in the forest, the protagonist notices something. Amy is there and she notices him as well. She stays quiet for a moment, but then greets him with a good morning. Ray asks if she was waiting for him and Amy replies that she wanted to apologize. The protagonist says she does not need to do that it was not her fault and that he simply was not good enough. Amy starts crying. Ray watches her and thinks that humans are really troublesome, saying that it is fine because he thinks he needs to learn how to deal with the so-called human social norms. The protagonist takes an apple from her basket and says he accepts the apology, thinking that humans are really sensitive since they cry and laugh over anything. At the House of Talents, the elder asks if the villages near the border were all attacked by that thing. The man replies that yes, and that there are still clear eyewitness reports, but that someone has already been infected. He says that most of them are still delirious and unable to report what happened, so they would like help with the investigation. The woman comments that those creatures normally do not approach areas where humans gather, so that is abnormal, and says she wants to go with them. The husband asks her not to worry, since it is only an investigative mission. Besides, their son will take the test soon, so one of them must stay behind to take care of him. He says everything will be fine and that he will return soon. The mage replies that she understands and asks him to be careful. In the late afternoon, the protagonist continues training and thinks that he still cannot do it because he cannot get used to the body coordination of a human. When Ray looks back, he sees Amy sitting against a tree reading a book, and he ends up staring at her for a while. He thinks he needs to control himself because that human body must be affecting him. So he says it is better to stop there and go back. Amy replies that she did not notice it was already so late and agrees that they should return. They walk until Amy asks him to wait. She looks around and says it is safe because she needs to make sure Gary will not hurt him again. Ray thinks he cannot believe he's being protected by a human girl. The protagonist asks if she is not worried about what others will think when they see her with him. Amy replies that what others think about her is their problem because she has her own opinions and will not believe ridiculous rumors. She asks what the problem is if his hair is red and says he should not be labeled as evil. She hopes he also will not care so much about other people's opinions because everyone has their own path to follow. Ray remembers Gary saying he should do something suitable for his level and wonders why he did not think of that before. He thanks Amy and the two say goodbye. At night, the protagonist is at home in the barn and selects the level 1. Ray places the sword in his mouth, kneels down, and takes an attack stance, thinking that he will do what he knows how to do best and return to who he truly is. Then the protagonist advances and jumps onto the target's back. The robot becomes confused and level 1 is completed. The protagonist becomes excited because it worked and says that his father said he could pass the Knight's Academy test if he defeated a level 1 magical dummy, so now he wants to test his limits. Level 2 is activated. The next day, Ray comments that the sun has just risen and asks his father where he is going so early. The father replies that he received a new mission and will not return home for some time, but tells him not to worry because he will definitely return in time for the exam. He tells Ray to keep training with the wooden dummy while he is away because he is sure he will be able to defeat it. The protagonist is about to say something when someone approaches asking if he's ready to leave. The swordsman replies that he is, says he will miss them, and that he is already going. The mage asks him to take care on the road. Ray thinks that everything is fine because passing the dummy test is nothing special, and that when his father returns, he will certainly be surprised. After that, the protagonist walks and wonders how silly and excited his father will be when he finds out, imagining how fun his reaction will be. He thinks that if it were not for Amy's hint, he would never have discovered that method. Now he understands what it is like to anticipate something and what it is like to feel gratitude towards someone, and realizes that emotionally he is becoming more and more human. Humans can be annoying, but those three are exceptions, and he does not intend to take revenge on them. Afterward, in the forest, after Ray trains a lot, he notices something and asks himself whether that girl did not come today and why he is so anxious waiting for her arrival. He says that no one will interrupt his training now, that he must hurry and start training, and that he must never again allow himself to be corrupted by human emotions, because he is a great red dragon. In the late afternoon, the protagonist is lying on the grass, sleeping, until he opens his eyes and realizes it is already late and that he will get scolded if he does not go home now. He thinks he did not even get to thank Amy yet and that it seems she had something to do today, so he will tell her tomorrow. Meanwhile, in the village houses, people are desperate after discovering something. An elder asks anxiously if anyone has seen his son. The weapon shop owner replies that yes, saying there were 4 of them in total, and that they came to his shop early in the morning to buy new weapons. He says he heard the blonde boy telling the others that he wanted to enter the forest to hunt demonic beasts or something like that. Gary and Amy's mother becomes even more desperate. Bob and Kyle's mother says they are only children and asks how they could enter the forest alone, questioning why he did not stop them. The shop owner asks her to calm down, saying he did not imagine they would really go through with that plan. The elder says the forest is extremely dangerous at night, so they must inform the guards immediately and go out to look for them. The protagonist hears that and wonders if Gary and the group disappeared. He thinks karma came very fast and that Gary is reaping what he sowed. Maybe he will not even need to bother eliminating him with his own hands if he has already lost his life to demonic beasts. Then he realizes that Amy also disappeared. She always treated him well and he does not intend to take revenge on her. But it is a pity she has an idiot brother. Humans have always had short lives, so losing life sooner or later is the same. Ray starts walking and remembers Amy saying she already knew his name and that each person has their own path to follow. The protagonist stops in front of his own house without saying a word and wonders why he feels that strange sensation tightening in his chest. Ray changes direction and decides to go to the forest, thinking that Amy is innocent. He still has not told her that it was because of her advice that he managed to defeat the wooden dummy, and maybe she's waiting for him. In the forest, there are slain wolves and people fallen on the ground. Amy is being protected by her older brother, and Gary tells her not to move. An even larger wolf approaches. The protagonist runs toward the forest, thinking that he can smell blood and wondering if his partner is in danger. When he enters the forest, Ray realizes it is only an adolescent demon wolf. There is a cut on its belly caused by a knife, and the corpse is still warm. They must be nearby, but the footprints and trails are completely confused, and he wonders where he should go. Suddenly, the protagonist hears a very loud noise and immediately thinks of Amy. In the same place, Gary is being attacked and screams very loudly. Amy is worried about her brother and at the same time terrified of the wolf in front of them. The wolf lunges and Amy cannot react. She only wishes that someone would appear to save them. Suddenly, blood splashes. Amy opens her eyes and sees Ray striking the wolf directly with his sword. He asks if she is okay. Amy replies that yes, but that her brother and the others are not, asking Ray to be careful. The protagonist ends up getting injured in the arm but forces himself to remain standing. The wolf keeps advancing and Ray tells her not to worry because he will not lose his life there yet. Ray leaps back, thinking that first he needs to lure the wolf away from her. The wolf realizes and tries to bite a tree branch, but the protagonist moves away quickly and thinks that human body is far too weak. There is absolutely no way to fight an adult demon wolf on equal terms. In the face of absolute strength, his speed is ridiculously pathetic, and he cannot even lure it away easily. In the past, demon wolves were nothing to him, but now they are. Ray holds the sword with his mouth and tells the wolf not to dare touch them. The wolf stares at him and advances anyway. The protagonist realizes he's being pushed back and that he will not be able to hold on much longer, so he needs to perform that attack now. The weak point of that demon wolf is its eyes. Ray strikes one of its eyes with the sword. Then the protagonist falls to the ground and thinks it is a pity because his strength was too weak and he managed to destroy only one eye. If that had happened in the past, a single blow would have been enough to pierce the skull with his claws. But now he needs to make the best possible use of human weapons. Even with the injured eye, the wolf advances again. Ray watches carefully and thinks there must be a gap in its defense, and that he needs to find out which point is the hardest to protect. The protagonist cuts one of the wolf's legs and thinks it is perfect, that this was exactly what he was looking for. The wolf falls to the ground and Ray takes the opportunity to advance. Jumping forward and charging once again with the sword held in his mouth, he throws himself toward the wounded wolf and finally defeats it. The wolf falls heavily to the ground. The protagonist watches and thinks that he has finally gotten rid of it. Amy has fainted. Ray also lies down on the ground, completely exhausted. Suddenly, something appears in front of him and the protagonist wonders what the hell that is. The system notifies the rewards obtained and says that a skill has been unlocked. Dragon Eyes. It also informs that an intermediate demonic core has been obtained. Ray, still confused, wonders what that thing is with all those useless data and thinks he would rather just ignore it. His priority now is to save them, because the smell of blood will attract more demonic beasts. The protagonist picks up Gary and Amy in his arms. Gary wakes up and notices the situation, but Ray tells him to stop moving. The protagonist continues carrying the two and thinks he cannot keep going like that much longer. Then Ray notices something. There are still two more people. The protagonist looks at them and keeps walking, thinking that he did the best he could. He feels sorry, but their survival will have to be left to fate. Later, some men are talking about having discovered something and say they found nothing until they notice something approaching. They realize it is the missing children. Ray appears carrying them and they say they must inform the parents immediately. When they finally reach the villagers, the protagonist collapses on the ground completely exhausted and says they may need treatment. People ask if he really walked out of the forest on his own while still carrying two other children, and question why that group entered the forest so late at night. A woman approaches desperately looking for her children and asks where Bob and Kyle are. The man apologizes and says he only brought those two children because he was afraid. The woman begins to cry desperately. The men tell her to calm down because she cannot enter the forest alone. Even so, the woman runs off to search for her children. She enters the forest in despair looking for them, but when she sees something, she immediately runs back, saying she is not afraid. She grabs Ray's clothes and asks where her children are and why they would enter the forest if they had always been obedient. She says Ray deceived her children and led them there, and that it is all his fault. She claims she said long ago that red hair is sinister, that he is a bearer of disaster who puts everyone in danger. Someone approaches and asks if she really thinks he could have lured the children into the forest, since he was the only one capable of walking out on his own. The woman demands that he immediately say where he tricked her children into going. People begin to pressure him, telling him to speak the truth and asking why he only brought Amy and Gary back, questioning where he left the others. The woman begins shaking Ray. The protagonist replies that he already said they are in the forest. The woman shouts that they are only children and asks how he could leave them there to die. Ray wonders if they also forgot that he is only a child. The people call him a cold-blooded monster and say that it is unforgivable. They ask if she really intends to enter the forest to look for them. The protagonist thinks that they are all so blinded by his red hair that they forgot he is human as well. They do not see him as a child, only as a monster. The woman grabs a torch. Ray thinks those people are even more terrifying than the creatures of the forest. The woman says she will not forgive him. The protagonist thinks the real monsters are there. The woman prepares to throw the torch at him, and Ray wonders if he will lose his life again, and this time because of a simple piece of wood. He thinks he truly hates this. Just as the woman is about to throw the torch, someone stops her. People ask what he is doing and say the red-haired boy is a true monster and must have enchanted Gary. Some even say Gary has gone mad. Gary grabs the torch and says the crazy ones are them. He asks how they could decide to condemn someone based only on assumptions, and says they must not dare touch his savior. Even so, the people do not change their minds and continue saying everything is his fault. Everyone starts throwing stones. After that, the protagonist appears lying in a bed with many bandages all over his body. The mage is sitting beside him. Ray looks at her with tears in his eyes and wonders how human beings can be both so beautiful and so cruel at the same time. The protagonist touches her arm, and the mage can't believe what she's seeing. She immediately hugs him and says it is wonderful that he woke up because she thought he would never awaken again. She says that if he knows how much that hurts, he must never be so reckless again in the future. The protagonist asks how long he has been asleep. The mage replies that it has been an entire week and says that if he had never woken up again, she truly would not have known how to explain that to his father. Ray asks about the other people, and the mage replies that the 2 children he saved are fine, with only a few minor injuries. But Bob and Kyle still cannot be found, and she fears they may already be gone. Before that, Gary kept repeating over and over that they ran into the forest on their own and that Ray saved them, while the woman insisted that was impossible and that he must have been brainwashed. The mage approaches, and seeing her son in that condition becomes furious, her aura even intensifying, and she asks who did that to him. The men tell her not to be angry, that after all it was her son who encouraged them to go into the forest, so he is also responsible, and that she is a mother too, so she should understand what it feels like when children disappear. The mage hugs her son, and the woman, trembling, drops the torch to the ground and begs someone to save her poor children, asking how she is supposed to live now, saying she always knew that boy should have left the village because he is cursed. A young man tells her to speak more quietly, and his companion asks why he should, saying that if the forest is so dangerous, then why he cannot say that. After that, the mage leaves carrying her son in her arms. In the present, the mage strokes her son's head and says that it is all right, that it is not his fault, that he does not need to blame himself, that the boy named Gary already told everything, and that her son was incredible. She stands up and says he must be hungry and that she will cook something for him. The mage closes the door. The protagonist sighs and thinks that he has been curious about that thing for a while, wondering if everyone has it. Ray activates the dragon eye and asks what that is. The protagonist realizes it is the ability he had in the past. Ray thinks that when he was the red dragon, he had many magical spells, and since he could not enter the Magic Academy, he believed he would never have the chance to use them again. He never expected he could recover them again, even if only slowly, one at a time. The protagonist wonders if that crystal appeared because he eliminated that intermediate level demon wolf. Suddenly, smoke begins entering the room, and Ray wonders where it came from. People outside start shouting that the house is on fire. The mage rushes into the room and says they need to leave. She uses her magic, and Ray observes it with the dragon eye. The target is locked, carrying flammable items, and the protagonist realizes it is Bob and Kyle's mother. People shout that the house is on fire, but the mage and her son manage to get out in time, and she uses her dispersal magic, managing to extinguish the flames. She says everything is fine now, but the people claim that if they keep staying there, the entire village will be destroyed sooner or later. The mage asks if her son is afraid, but the protagonist remains silent. The mage calls him, and Ray replies that he is fine, saying the fire disappeared very quickly. The mage says of course it did, because she did not learn magic for nothing, and that now they should go back home. The protagonist thinks those humans wanted to burn their house, that they even hoped they would die in the fire, that they want them dead, and that he needs to take revenge. After that, Ray says he is going to train now, and the mage replies that his wounds have not healed yet, and that he cannot push himself like that. Near the forest, the protagonist uses the dragon eye and notices that around the area there seem to be only beginner-level beasts, so it will not be very difficult. Inside the forest, an animal grabs a fruit It is a monkey. Ray locks onto the target and advances with the sword, striking it directly, and the monkey falls to the ground. Several beasts are defeated, and the protagonist says that 20 should be enough. The system notifies that he obtained a novice rank beast core and asks if he wants to absorb it, and Ray replies that he wants another. It all depends on luck whether he obtains them or not. He eliminated 20 novice level beasts and only obtained 2 cores, wondering what the effect will be when he absorbs them. Suddenly, someone is sobbing. It is a wolf cub after seeing its mother killed. The protagonist observes it and says that it too will have to fight alone from now on. Ray notices there is a domination opportunity and confirms to the system that yes, even without knowing what it does, he decides to try. An energy begins surrounding the cub, and the protagonist realizes he succeeded. The wolf was successfully tamed. He asks if after being tamed it will enter his body, whether there will be any side effects, and if he will be able to summon it whenever he wants. The system notifies rewards received and unlocked abilities, and Ray comments that he seems to have obtained a new ability, but he still does not have time to investigate it because he needs to finish something important quickly. They must be nearby. A sound is detected, the target is locked, and the protagonist realizes he has found the 2 boys. Ray enters the cave and realizes that only the bones of the 2 remain. The protagonist approaches, pours a liquid and some things into a bucket, and gathers the remains. Afterward, Ray returns home and his mother says his injuries have not healed yet, so he should not push himself too much. The protagonist replies that he understands and says she is very annoying. The mage asks if he has learned to talk back like that now and comments that his clothes are also completely dirty. Ray replies that he needs to keep training tomorrow and that now he wants to sleep. The mage says she really does not know what to do with him and comments that his father should return in about 2 days so he can ask him to train together. The protagonist asks if that is true and says that is great because he cannot wait to show the results of his training so far. The mage tells him to cover himself well with the blanket. Later, in the same place, Ray is sleeping. He wakes up, goes to the barn, takes the buckets, and then goes to Bob and Kyle's house. The woman comes down the stairs asking who is there, who is making so much noise in the middle of the night, telling them to stop knocking. She looks at the door with hope that it might be her children and asks if it is them, if they came back. When she opens the door, there is only something in front of her. The woman approaches and realizes it is Kyle's shirt, asking if he was the one who left it there. She begins following the tracks and says she will take them home, asking them to wait for her. Deep in the forest, the woman comments that it is very dark there and that she should not go any deeper. Then she looks behind and sees Bob's clothes. She goes in that direction and tells them to come back home. The protagonist is on top of a tree holding a rope tied to a bucket. He releases the rope and the liquid pours over her. The woman becomes desperate and asks who is doing that. Ray jumps to the ground and the woman says she knew it was him, that he really is a monster and that he must return her children to her. Red eyes appear in the darkness of the forest watching everything and the woman says no. Meanwhile, the protagonist simply watches. The woman begins screaming while being devoured by the monsters. The next day, people comment on rumors that the curse truly exists, that it is something very frightening and that no one should provoke the Talon family. People look back when they see Ray passing by and unusually they are polite to him. Some even ask if he is training again and say he is very hardworking. The protagonist keeps walking and thinks it seems that a new rumor is spreading, but he likes it. Later, in another place, Ray notices some horses in front of his house and becomes confused. He immediately goes to the door and asks if his father has returned, but inside his mother is bent over the bed crying while several guards stand there. The light in the protagonist's eyes disappears immediately. He runs to the bed asking what happened to his father. The mage replies that he is sick and tells Ray that he needs to be strong because his father will get better. Ray uses the dragon eye and wonders what that is because he has never seen a state like that before, not even when he was the red dragon. A voice says that the shadow will eliminate everyone. The guards say they are sorry, but he contracted the shadow plague. He was attacked by a shadow beast at the border while protecting a villager. The protagonist asks about shadows and about the shadow plague. He thinks he has never seen something like that, not even in his previous life, and wonders when that appeared and what happened to the world after his defeat. The mage thanks them for bringing her husband back, and the guard apologizes for not being able to protect him. At that moment, Ray notices something in the system and thinks that perhaps that spell could help. It was one of the high-level spells he used to use, capable of dispelling all dark magic and curses, but he does not know how to unlock it. If he needs to eliminate demonic beasts to obtain rewards, then he will definitely have to defeat a higher-level demonic beast to unlock it. However, he is still very weak and wonders if he will become stronger after entering the Avrian Academy. The mage stays silent for a moment and then replies that of course he will, because that is where his father studied and that he will become as strong as his father. The protagonist says that he will definitely qualify for the Avrian Academy and find a way to cure his father. The mage begins to cry and hugs him, saying that he can do it and that she believes in him. Somewhere else, a voice says that the prophecy has been revealed and that the world will soon undergo great changes. It asks about the red-haired boy and what exactly he will bring to this world, whether redemption or disaster. Another voice replies that there is still no way to know. The man orders them to inform the Hall of Knights and says they must find him as quickly as possible. If he brings redemption, they will guide him. If he brings disaster, then they will destroy him. In the village, people are gathered and say to get the best position because they have been in line since before dawn. The knights approach and everyone becomes excited upon seeing Knight Delbert, commenting that he truly lives up to his reputation. Only on the day of the annual night examination do they get to see their bearing, and the girls are fascinated. A sound is made. Someone places a sword on the ground and welcomes everyone. The man says he is a knight of the Avrion Academy named Winford, and that beside him are Knight Delbert and Knight Bernardo, with whom everyone is more familiar. Today, the three of them will conduct the admission exam for children 5 years of age. If they are interested in joining the Avrion Knights Academy, they must demonstrate combat ability. The sword dummy is positioned, and participants must step onto the stage in order. The first test officially begins now. A candidate climbs the stairs thinking it is just a wooden dummy and that even if it is strong, he can use his strength to defeat it. The boy stands in front of the dummy while his parents cheer from the stands, but he is thrown far away. The challenge fails in a single second. The parents are disappointed, losing their excitement instantly. Bernardo announces that he has failed and calls the next participant. The protagonist thinks that, exactly as his father said, he must defeat the level 1 dummy. Even though a level 1 wooden dummy does not move like a living being, its defensive and offensive speed is as fast as that of an adult. Ray hears something. Delbert says quietly that coming here is a great waste of time, and the other knight replies that they must fulfill their duties according to the elder's request. The protagonist thinks that even from such a distance he can still hear what they are saying. It seems that after obtaining more monster cores, his senses have become sharper. Delbert states that knights should come from noble bloodlines, and that he truly does not see why these filthy civilians are worth wasting time on. The other knight replies that it is not necessarily so. Delbert asks how many rounds have already passed and observes that no one has succeeded yet. Bernardo informs him that Gary has passed the exam. People comment that he is different from the other children. Gary becomes excited and gives Ray a thumbs up. The knights notice the red-haired boy and comment that he is the same cursed boy whose hair has the same color as blood, probably caused by a curse. A monster who could harm people, asking whether he really thinks he can become a knight. Bernardo calls the next participant and says the exam will begin in 1 minute. Delbert declares that he does not believe in prophecies and that if the red hair is truly as the prophecy says, then he should be able to pass. Bernardo asks what he is trying to do. Delbert changes the dummy to level 3. The dummy rushes forward quickly and the other two knights warn him to be careful. The protagonist remains still in an attack stance. When the dummy approaches, the knight becomes worried and says, "That is dangerous." A movement occurs and everyone is surprised, including the audience. The dummy's head is severed with a single strike. The knight orders the result to be announced and Bernardo congratulates him, declaring that he has passed the exam. The mage and Gary are very happy for him. The protagonist returns home and tells his sick father, lying in bed, that he is leaving, that he passed the exam and will leave the village with the knights. He knows his father cannot hear him, but says he does not need to worry because he will find a way to cure him. Ray feels bad seeing his father in that condition. His mother approaches and tells him to take that with him. The protagonist asks what it is, and the mage replies that it is the family heirloom, hoping it will bring him luck. Ray says he is leaving and asks her to take care of herself. The mage replies that he must take care of himself as well and that if he ever finds himself in trouble, she will always be there. Ray tells her not to worry because he is a man. The protagonist walks away and the mage cries as she watches him leave. Later, in another place, Ray approaches, and the knight says everyone is already there and that he can get in because another boy is waiting in the carriage. When the protagonist opens the curtain, he finds Gary. Ray sits down without saying a word. At night, the horses continue traveling. Gary coughs, apologizes, and says that when he was defeated, he said something rude. He says he is just an idiot. The protagonist replies to forget about it, saying he is only a 5-year-old child and asks if he did not save him earlier as well, stating that now they are even. Gary comments that he talks as if he were not 5 years old. Ray asks about his sister and whether she did not come to say goodbye today. Gary asks if he did not know that she went to the Roland Academy. The protagonist thinks that Amy never said she had magical talent. The knights continue the journey until a voice orders them to stop. The two look outside through the curtain and see a lot of smoke, asking what happened. The knight asks who is there and says they are knights from the Avrion Academy, asking the person to state their name. The figure within the smoke remains silent for a moment, until the woman finally answers that she is an adventurer from the Guild Without Trace, Anne Wardeck. Bernardo asks what happened, and the adventurer replies that her team was attacked by a hell shadow beast. Bernardo questions why that thing appeared there, saying they did not encounter any beasts on the way until now. Delbert states that the beasts may have sensed their aura and therefore did not dare approach. The knight says they are heading to Rainy Town and that if she's also going that way, they can give her a ride. The adventurer thanks them and asks only to be dropped off in Rainy. The boys ask about Rain City and whether they are not going directly to the Knight's Academy. Delbert tells them not to be idiots and asks what the point would be of sending children like them to the front lines. The knight explains that since the Avrion Knights Academy is a fortress located at the border, war could break out at any moment. They must train in Rain City for 10 years until they master the basic combat skills, and only then will they be able to develop their abilities at the Avrion Knights Academy. The protagonist is surprised to hear about 10 years and thinks that for a dragon 10 years means nothing, but humans do not have long lives, and he does not know if his father can survive that long. After that, they continue their journey. Gary comments that only that archer survived and remembers that Ray's father was attacked by an abyss shadow beast. The knights' faces grow pale upon hearing the name of the abyss shadow beast, and no one dares imagine what will happen if they encounter something like that along the way. A fog begins to move and the protagonist senses a strange pressure. The knight orders everyone to enter combat mode. There is a huge shadow ahead. The beast's aura is dark. Sounds echo and they realize it is the fallen Bear King, infected by a hell shadow beast. The bears charge forward and the knight orders them to prepare for battle. One bear approaches from behind. A soldier notices and Bernardo thinks they will not be able to escape. A quick movement occurs and it is the protagonist who defeats the bear to protect them. Bernardo is surprised and says he did very well, but that now he must protect himself. Delbert asks why that big one has not moved yet, and the knight replies that he does not know yet, it seems to be waiting for something. Gary faces a bear head-on, and another rushes toward him from behind. Ray quickly strikes the bear and tells him to be careful because the fallen bear's power is much stronger than that of a demon wolf. When the bear opens its enormous mouth, Gary asks what the hell that is. The protagonist thinks that power is terrifying. The larger bear remains still, and the knight comments that it continues standing there without moving. Bernardo asks what it is planning. A voice echoes saying that eternity will not defeat the darkness, and that darkness will eventually dominate the continent. Bernardo becomes outraged when he realizes the bear spoke. The large bear, still paralyzed, says they are destined to fail, and that those beside them have already lost their lives. A very loud sound is emitted. Delbert asks what those words mean. Bernardo replies that he does not know, and wonders if it said that only to threaten them. The large bear disappears. They comment that it vanished, and the knight says they were lucky that Bastard chose not to fight, otherwise none of them would have escaped unharmed. The system notifies that a novice rank beast core has been obtained and asks whether he wishes to absorb it. The protagonist thinks that those words at that moment sounded as if they were directed at him. The knight says they all did very well and believes they will become qualified knights in the future. They thank him. Ray asks if they usually encounter creatures that can speak, and the knight replies that they do not. In fact, they do not usually even encounter abyss shadow beasts at the border, and it is the first time he has ever seen one that talks. He wonders why Ray is so calm and thinks that his performance was far beyond what would be expected for someone his age. Delbert stares at Ray, grinding his teeth. When they arrive at Rainy City, they notice there are more guards than usual. A soldier says the knight did a good job. The knight asks the reason for the sudden increase in security, and the soldier replies that the kingdom of Alur issued an Amber Alert and that the entire city has been placed under martial law. The adventurer thanks them for escorting her there, and Delbert tells her not to worry because it was nothing serious. Ray thinks that this is already something very serious, and that the entire continent seems to be in danger, wondering if he is the one chosen to bring redemption to the people. The protagonist thinks about his father and decides that he will definitely become a knight. Everything begins now, and he must trust himself. In Rainy City, 10 years later, the teacher says that although many knights cannot use magic, they master a certain type of ability and asks if anyone can say what it is. Someone raises a hand. It is Gary, who answers that it is Chi, and that cultivating Chi can strengthen the body, sharpen the senses, and even allow someone to surpass human limits for a short period of time. The teacher says it seems they have already completed the preparations and asks if anyone can explain why it is necessary to cultivate Chi only after the age of 15. Gary wonders where Ray went and says that he went to the bathroom. The teacher replies that it is fine and calls Naslavia to answer. The girl stands up and says that it is because Chi places an enormous burden on the body, and that after the age of 15, the development of the internal organs matures, and only by beginning cultivation at that moment will it not cause harm to the body. The teacher confirms that it is correct and says that, as explained, they will officially embark on the path of cultivation. She hopes they will keep the knowledge they learned in mind and that it will be useful when they put it into practice in the future. In another place, a voice orders the wolf to attack and the wolf advances. With his surreal power, it defeats an opponent with a single strike. It is the protagonist's pet. The system notifies that a beginner-level beast core has been obtained and asks if he wishes to absorb it. The energy of the beginner-level beast core is completely absorbed. Ray gives it food and says he will end things there today, because if he returns later, someone will probably go crazy again. Then someone approaches. It is the knight who says that this is unexpected because he was thinking about whom he would encounter first when he returned. He says it is not bad at all since Ray manages to slip out even with such tight security. The protagonist smiles. The knight comments that 10 years have already passed and that he has grown a lot. Ray replies that he looks the same, that he cannot see a single wrinkle on his face after 10 years, and that he truly does not know how old he is. The knight replies that it is a secret and says he heard from Ray's private tutor that Ray has been sneaking out frequently to hunt beasts, and it seems that today was also a good harvest. The protagonist says that if the Amber Alert had not recently been lifted, it would have been difficult to sneak out, but compared to sitting in the classroom, he prefers hunting beasts outside. The knight says he should be glad he did not go too far because if the guards of the outer cordon discover it, they will not be polite. He also says he went to Ray's house and that his father's illness has not worsened. His mother has been taking good care of him and asked him to say that Ray does not need to worry so much. Ray thanks him and thinks that in the last 10 years, rain or shine, he trained hard but still has not awakened to any new abilities, and everything remains as uncertain as in the beginning. The knight places a hand on his shoulder and tells him to come along, because they will go to the city together. He tells him to cheer up, since tomorrow will be the day they leave for the Avrian Academy, and that he cannot wait to meet the other young people. At the entrance of Rainy City, someone asks if he does not know what he means by that. The soldier replies that the Amber Alert has been removed, so there is no reason to stop him because he is only a child, and asks where he would go. Aaron says he has repeated this many times, that he is special and that they must pay attention to his every movement. The knight approaches and says it is a pleasure to meet him. Aaron comments that he finally arrived and asks where that idiot Ray had gone, saying he has warned countless times not to leave his sight, that he even canceled class and ran out, asking how many times this has already happened this month. The protagonist replies that it has already been a month since the Amber Alert was lifted and that it is normal to go out, saying he is very strict. Aaron, irritated, says he still dares to answer back. Ray replies that besides that, he will be leaving soon anyway and will be completely free after that. Aaron retorts that if he is his student, even if it is only for one day, he cannot skip class. The knight intervenes and asks them to leave it aside, telling everyone to step back now. In the square of Rainy City, a voice orders all students to gather quickly for an emergency meeting. Gary comments that he came back very quickly today and asks if he got caught. Ray, with a bump on his head, replies that he was simply unlucky. A girl watches him. Someone opens a scroll. A young man introduces himself as Assistant Lancey and informs them that starting tomorrow they will be taken to the Avrian Knights Academy. The journey will last about 7 days, and if they do not want any accidents to happen, they must obey his orders throughout the entire trip. He asks if everyone understood. A soldier asks whether the route has already been decided this time. Winfred replies that yes, they will go through the swamp. The soldier asks about the swamp and if it is not too early for these children to face something like that. Winfred replies that if they want to become knights, they must go through some kind of test. Besides that, he says that this time the test does not involve only them. The next day at the entrance of Rainy Town, they depart. The students ask why they do not use a teleportation device and say that way they could reach the destination directly, saving a long distance. One of them calls the others idiots and says it is obvious that it is because there is no teleportation device at the Avrian Academy. The boy beside him argues that the academy actually does have one and asks whether they simply cannot afford to use it. A voice comments that it seems they paid attention in class. It is the girl who explains that the Avrian Academy is located on the border and that besides resisting invasions from foreign enemies, it also needs to fight against abyss shadow beasts. If they installed a teleportation device there, in case the academy were defeated, the enemy could instantly teleport to any part of the country. Gary asks if the teacher had said that before, and the boy comments that now that she mentioned it, he remembers. Meanwhile, the protagonist is sleeping, and Gary wonders if it is just his imagination, or if that girl was looking in their direction. Near the castle ruins, a voice orders everyone to leave the area and prepare to camp. Afterwards, the students come down, and Gary tells his partner that he feels Neslavia is looking at him. Ray asks if she is really looking at him and why she would do that, wondering if there is anything special about him to look at. Gary replies that if he does not believe it, he can look back, because the two of them saw it together. Neslavia realizes that they noticed and quickly turns her head away. Gary says he told him, "Don't look at me. I am not looking at you." Ray asks if he does not believe it. He can look back, because the two of them saw it together. Neslavia realizes that they noticed and quickly turns her head away. Gary says he told him, that it was not just when they had just arrived. The protagonist asks if it was because of his red hair, and Gary replies that it is not, because besides that, he is not the only one with red hair. He mentions the duo Ian and Kyle, who call everyone to set up the tents faster than the others and ask if they are tired. Ray says that he is right, but that it does not matter. Gary asks if it really does not matter and comments that she is beautiful and that he does not want to try something with her. The protagonist answers that he does not. Behind the castle ruins, two boys are there thinking about sneaking out, but they smell a very strong odor and comment that it stinks. They realize that the sticky mess seems endless until someone approaches and says that there is a swamp there, and that if they do not want to have their legs bitten by sharp insects in the swamp while they sleep, it is better to go quickly set up the tents and rest. At night, a campfire is lit and a guard patrols the area. Something moves quickly, but the guard does not notice. Ray is hiding and thinks that it is not bad, and that luckily he took advantage of dinner time to do some research. Escaping from there is easy, and he does not even need to avoid the night on guard. Suddenly, someone pulls him. It is Neslavia, who says it is already late and asks where he is going. The protagonist replies that he is going to hunt beasts. Neslavia asks if he is crazy and says that this is not near Rainytown and that if he encounters an intermediate level beast, not even the knights will be able to save him in time. Ray tells her not to worry because he can also deal with intermediate level beasts and that it is not a problem. The protagonist walks away and Neslavia watches him leave. The next day, someone wakes them saying that the last one to get up will receive punishments. Ray appears with the huge dark circles under his eyes, with an almost gloomy appearance. Gary is startled when he sees him and says that he scared him, asking what happened and if he did not sleep well the night before. The protagonist answers that he did, that he slept well, and Gary thinks that he should stop lying. Gary tells him to wake up quickly because he does not want to be punished in front of so many people. Ray thinks that this is great because at this speed, before reaching Avery and Academy, he will be able to absorb beginner-level beast cores up to the limit, and soon he will be able to start absorbing intermediate-level cores. In another place, the horses continue walking until a knight orders them to stop. Winfred looks back while they advance slowly. Later, somewhere else, the smoke dissipates. Inside the carriage, the protagonist is sleeping, and Gary comments that it is very quiet outside. Suddenly, the horse makes a strange sound, and Ray immediately wakes up. A monster lunges through the window, and luckily, Gary cuts a piece of it and says that it is a sharp insect, warning that everyone must prepare for battle. The monster releases a liquid, but Gary continues cutting. A girl becomes very frightened when she sees so much blood, and Gary explains that sharp insects appear in groups, so more and more of them will appear. He says they must prepare and not stay inside the carriage, and everyone stands up. Gary orders them to form groups of 3 people back to back and not leave any point undefended. He also says they should move to a more open place to deal with them. People leave the carriage saying they will compete to see who eliminates more insects. The protagonist uses his Dragon Eye ability and thinks that everyone is very excited. Ray can see where the monsters are and thinks that they are only beginner-level beasts, so there is nothing to worry about, until the protagonist notices something and realizes that the 6 knights left earlier, and then understands the situation. A boy asks where he is going and tells him not to break formation. Ray replies that they are only beginner-level beasts, that they do not need his help because they have the exact number of people and that he is going to sleep. At the mountain peak, the knights observe everything. One of them comments that it seems he will only get a red band and that maybe he is just afraid. The soldier next to him tells him to look at another point, saying that that boy performed very well because he did not hesitate to attack, eliminating the enemies with a single blow. His movements are small and efficient, consciously controlling his body to avoid unnecessary energy consumption. It is Gary. The knights comment that he is not bad and that he will probably obtain a white band. Winfred comments about that girl, saying that although she rarely takes the initiative to attack, she has extraordinary insight, and her posture while holding the sword is very correct. It is Neslavia. Suddenly she notices a monster approaching from the side and immediately cuts it down. The observing knights say that as soon as she finds an opening, she attacks, being very firm. They comment that she is an intelligent girl and that she did not even dirty her clothes. Suddenly screams begin, noises echo, and an even larger insect approaches. They say that these sharp insects have gathered and formed a larger one, something truly frightening. A boy asks to be saved, until Ian advances and says that no one can hurt his companions. The duo also fights alongside Kyle, and the knights observe, saying that it seems they do not need to do anything. These red-haired children are really not bad except for one, and that it is almost over. Later, in the same place, after defeating all the insects, everyone feels relieved. Winfred thinks that Ian is not only strong, but also knows how to take care of his teammates, something very rare. Inside the carriage, Gary asks why he did not join them and says that the carriage is dangerous because if something had happened, they would not have been able to save him in time. The protagonist answers that he was very sleepy and that the knights were observing, so there would be no problem. Gary says that he is still the same. Winfred wonders who the chosen one of the prophecy is. Kyle says that he eliminated most of the sharp insects, and two boys comment that he is incredible. They say that it seems that the beasts are not such a big deal and that they feel they can become real knights very soon. If they are lucky, they might even earn a white band. Gary asks what the white band is, and one of them asks if he really does not know. He explains that even if they become knights, they still have classifications. Those knights accompanying them are all white band squires, the highest classification. Obtaining the white band means that their ability has been recognized by the knights during the exam. In addition to the white band, there are also the green and the black bands, which represent different types of abilities. The lowest classification is the red band, granted only to those who perform poorly in the test. Those who receive the white band not only gain special guidance, but also receive a personal tutor and additional resources as a reward. Those who receive the red band are not so lucky. They receive only basic training and almost no one cares about them. Most of the time they can do whatever they want, but when it comes to putting them on the reward list, they end up being abandoned by the academy. The protagonist thinks about being able to do whatever he wants, which means he will be able to hunt more beasts. He imagines that he can obtain higher level crystals and abilities, and begins thinking of a way to obtain the red band. Then they tell everyone to get down because they have arrived. People comment that that city gate is at least 50, no, maybe the height of a 100-story building, and that it is incredible. The protagonist observes and thinks that that place is Avrion Academy. The place is enormous, and a boy comments that even though he had heard about it, he did not expect the academy to be so grand. That academy is practically a city, and everyone there is a knight. The energy of the place is supplied by magical crystals, and they do not even need to use torches, something extremely luxurious. Gary says that it is a completely different world from the village where he lived. The knight tells everyone to follow him and not look back, explaining that if they get separated, it does not matter, because they will have the chance to explore the place in the future. Already inside the academy, the knight shows the armor area and the library, and says that whoever is talking must remain silent. A boy asks if even the staff responsible for lending books are knights, and the knight answers that naturally they are because all students who graduate are required to perform volunteer work at Avrion Academy for 2 years. Leaving or staying after that depends entirely on each person's personal preference. Finally, before going to the dormitory, they arrive at the last stop of the guide. The students are confused and wonder if that is a cemetery. The protagonist widens his eyes while the knight explains that that place is the burial ground of the knights who lost their lives fighting for the kingdom of Allure, a memorial to remind everyone that the war never ends, and that they must always remember the mission of a knight, to fight to defend and protect the homeland. Everyone agrees. Ray stands frozen looking at a statue and feels irritated, thinking that they used the body of the dragon race to make armor and weapons. Naslavia asks who those statues are, and the knight answers that they are the founders of Avrion Academy, the legendary Dragon Knights. The protagonist asks what a Dragon Knight is. The instructor replies that they will discover that when they learn the history of the academy. He asks everyone to follow him while Ray remains irritated, asking himself if he is being ignored. The protagonist remains frozen. Gary watches him and wonders what is wrong with him, saying that they already want to leave. Ray keeps asking himself the reason and thinks that the deadly chamber beneath the cemetery has something inside, something that is alive. Later, somewhere else, Gary comments that he does not know who he will live with, but he hopes they will be nice guys he can get along with. The protagonist remains thoughtful, questioning why the deadly chamber has a living being inside and commenting that the condition of that being is also incredible, even if it is a monster. Gary asks if he's listening. Ray apologizes and says that he was thinking about something at that moment, asking if he means roommates. Gary replies that yes, it seems they are in the same dormitory and he wants to see who else will be there. Suddenly, someone says, "No way." It is Naslavia, indignant, asking how they can let her sleep in the same room as boys. Gary says that it is not a surprise because he heard that the academy has always treated knights equally, without gender distinction, and that they do not need to worry, at least they get along well. Naslavia tells him to shut up and says she will not stay with boys, stating that she wants to change rooms in the dormitory. Other students hear the noise and ask what happened. The protagonist replies that it is nothing, only that the young lady lost her patience. Gary comments that they also live there. All the students present begin introducing themselves, and Ray realizes that Ian also has red hair. Gary says that it seems they still have 2 more roommates, Dan and Marha Wardwick. The protagonist comments that he feels he has heard that name somewhere before. Naslavia approaches quickly, grabs her bag and says she is going to change clothes now, stating that only one of them can enter. Gary comments that he already said that she will not be able to change dormitory rooms. Dan asks why they are standing there and if they are waiting for him. Gary replies that they were indeed waiting for him. He says there is a huge cockroach inside and that they were discussing who would go in to eliminate it. Dan replies that it is a joke. He enters quickly and asks how a knight can be afraid of a simple cockroach, saying that he will set the example for them. Dan enters the room while everyone outside holds their laughter. Later in the cafeteria, Dan asks why they lied to him and says there was no cockroach at all, asking how they could do that. Dan has a slap mark on his face and says that now he is irritated. He asks if they think she will eliminate him while he is sleeping. Gary asks if that would not be great and comments that some people want to talk to her but never get the chance. Dan replies that with her bad temper, who would want to? Naslavia hears this and irritably asks what he said and what they are talking about. They reply that it is nothing. Naslavia asks if they can still eat and if there will be an evaluation soon, saying that she heard about it. Gary asks if it is about the assignment of night belts and questions what that has to do with eating. The protagonist replies that all the food there is free. Suddenly, some people walk past them and comment that they came from a poor place, that they are different from them and eat that way as if they had never eaten anything good in their entire lives. They say to leave it alone because, in any case, they will probably go home after eating a few meals. They comment that Ian is very big and is almost destroying the chair. They call him a country pumpkin and ask if no one ever told him how much space he takes up. They also ask how all those crazy redheads came from Rainy Town and say they are afraid it might be contagious. One of them stands up and says they are going too far. The two boys ask if he intends to defend them and say that at most he will only get a red band, so he should take care of his own life, otherwise they will beat him too. Ian says to leave it alone. The two boys reply that it is good that he is sensible and say they will warn him of one thing in the future. If they see them, it is better to keep their distance. Ian says that it is fine. Suddenly someone throws a piece of chicken that hits the bully directly in the face. Furious, he asks who did that. Someone pushes his head against the table. It is the protagonist who asks what he said just now. Even with no way out, the bully replies that he was talking about him, calling him a disgusting red-haired monster, and begins shouting for someone to save him, saying that that bastard is crazy and is using violence. Ian thanks him and says that they did not hurt him. Gary asks not to worsen the situation, reminding that the knights are watching. Naslavia comments that there will be an evaluation soon, and that it will affect the knight's impression of him. Ray continues pressing the boy against the table and says that he does not care. The bully's partner calls Ray a bastard and states that he is using violence against other students. A knight approaches and orders him to release him. The protagonist asks if he knows something he learned since childhood, that when someone tries to climb onto your head to intimidate you. The knight repeats the order for him to release him. Ray finishes the sentence saying that when someone tries to climb onto the heads of others to intimidate them, they need to learn to see some colors. The people around are frightened. The protagonist asks Ian if he saw that, saying that if they teach them a lesson, then they will learn the lesson. The knight asks why he did not obey his order. Ray apologizes and replies that his ears are like his. They have some problem because they only hear what they want to hear. The knight stares at him seriously. The protagonist then says to leave, that they should go eat the food and not let those bastards ruin their appetite. Some people talk quietly, saying that he is right, that those two came to provoke first and that they usually like to intimidate others, but this time they messed with the wrong person. The knight remains standing there staring at Ray. Later, still in the cafeteria, three great knights enter. Winford orders everyone to be silent. He announces that they will invite the dean of Avrion Academy and the 6 elders. People become nervous and comment among themselves, asking what they should do because no one said the 6 elders would watch the evaluation. The protagonist observes and thinks that the aura of those 6 people is very strong, similar to those bastards who defeated him in the past. A voice announces that under the observation of the 6 elders, a new round of night evaluation will be carried out for all of them. The result of the evaluation will give each of them a night band of a different color. Perhaps some have already heard about this. Whoever performs poorly will receive the red band, which means failure. However, they also say that even those who receive the red band can still reach important positions in the future. They must believe that they were already chosen at the age of 5 and that they possess more talent than ordinary people. The Academy's training will help develop this talent, so they must not lose heart. Ray thinks that that man still tries to speak words of encouragement and wonders what his expression will be when he himself obtains the red band. The person responsible for the evaluation will be Lancey. The knight says that they do not need to worry because he will fulfill his duty. There will be 5 different phases that will test several aspects of a knight's abilities. The Stone of Power, the Burning Inferno, the Undetectable Passage, the Eye of Precision, and the Will of Truth. The first stage is the Stone of Power. Lancey explains that the rules are simple. The participant only needs to push that large stone to the marked position and thus complete the phase. Everyone has 2 chances. If they fail on the first attempt, they may use a pair of magical gloves on the second, which will increase strength and help complete the test. However, the use of the gloves will also affect the evaluation, so they must consider it carefully. Gary comments that actually it seems quite easy. The protagonist replies that it really is simple, but he believes that someone does not want him to pass this test. Lancey then announces that before the official start, he has something to declare. Gary asks what he means. Lancey states that as the test examiner, he rejects Ray's participation. The protagonist asks if they saw that. Gary is surprised, and Naslavia protests, saying that this is not fair, and asks why Ray cannot also be tested. Lancey replies asking what justice is and says that this serves to remind all future knights that they must obey the orders of their superiors. He explains that if someone disagrees with the decision, they can report the case to their superiors by any means. If they order him to withdraw the decision, he will agree without objection. After that, he announces that the first student may step forward to start the test. Gary comments that it seems Ray really irritated him deeply. Naslavia says he should report the case to the superiors because he cannot be treated like that. The protagonist replies that it is fine, and that in fact it makes things easier for him. He says they can continue with the test and that he will join them in the next stage. He thinks that now he has the guarantee of obtaining the red band. Naslavia feels sorry for her partner. During the test, Gary and Naslavia pass. The protagonist comments that the second phase will probably be difficult for him and says that he should prepare himself. Gary asks what he means. Ray replies that the indicator for the second phase is there, and that apparently he comes from Roland Academy. Gary, scared out of his mind, says that since they've never learned magic before, he doesn't know exactly how they'll be tested. Ray replies that the battlefield does not care whether someone has learned or not. He imagines that they will have to resist magic. Normally, physically stronger people have lower magical resistance. He believes that these 5 tests are meant precisely to identify each person's strengths and weaknesses, allowing the Academy to discover the best way to develop their abilities. Gary says that makes sense. Then the second phase begins, the Burning Inferno. A mage places his hand on Gary's head and announces that he resisted for 57 seconds. Then he calls the next candidate. The protagonist says that it was not bad and that he lasted quite a long time. Gary replies that he did not even last a full minute, and the partner next to him comments that he did well, since only 1 minute passes in the outside world for every hour inside the illusion created by that mage. The mage then tests Naslavia. She tries to convince herself that it is only an illusion and that she cannot allow herself to be frightened. People are impressed to see that she has already been inside the illusion for 5 minutes, far ahead of second place. The mage congratulates her and says that she has proven her worth. People ask who that girl is, saying that she's very good. Then they call Ray. The mage asks if he is ready, and the protagonist replies that 20 seconds should be enough. Soon after, he thinks that maybe not that giving up immediately might be better and wonders if that is really happening. Inside the illusion, Ray is surprised to see a dragon and wonders if that is not himself. Suddenly, the mage and the protagonist are thrown away, leaving everyone surprised and alert about what happened. The mage says it is a curse and that he has been cursed by the red dragon. People ask what is happening and why the inspector fell, saying that they knew that Guy was trouble and that he is cursed, being even more dangerous than the other redheads. Ray asks if he is all right. Winford replies that he is probably just tired and that the two of them need to rest a little. He thinks it is strange because the mage's mana is completely exhausted, but that does not make sense. A voice asks if he discovered what happened. Winford replies that yes, and that it is only a mana disturbance caused by excessive use, saying that he will recover after resting a little. The elder asks if it was because he spent too much mana testing the students, and questions how a mage from the renowned Roland Magic Academy could run out of mana after a test of that level. Winford replies that he has already arranged for him to rest for now and that he will continue investigating the matter. He asks if he may suggest that another mage replace him for the remaining tests. The elder says that is fine. The elder calls the guard and the soldier replies that he understands and will arrange it immediately, leaving afterwards. Meanwhile, in the arena, everyone remains silent. Somewhere else, someone asks what a mana disturbance is. Naslavia replies that it is when a mage runs out of mana and still forces the casting of magic, which ends up causing a backlash effect on his own body. Gary asks if the mage ran out of mana after testing the students before him and says that he was very unlucky. The protagonist comments that geniuses always have difficulties. Naslavia finds it strange and asks if a mage from the Roland Magic Academy would really make such a basic mistake, also questioning what that curse mentioned was. Suddenly, everything around begins to shake. Noises echo and everyone asks what is happening. The pressure in the environment increases and people ask what that is. A mage appears with his arms open releasing magic, and they say that the testing area is now full of trees. Gary coughs and asks what is happening, and Neslavia replies that someone cast a spell. Someone jumps onto a tree and announces that the third phase begins now. Everyone looks surprised and asks who he is. The masked man replies that he is responsible for the third phase and says that all they need to do is follow him and replicate his movements as best as possible. The third stage is called the undetectable passage. The test begins immediately. The protagonist asks if they have already started and comments that it was very fast. The masked man moves quickly and a boy asks why those guys are also so fast. Ray also begins moving quickly and Neslavia says that she will not lose to that boy. Another boy still on the ground asks if no one will wait for him. Rapid movements happen through the forest. The masked man thinks that it is probably very difficult for those children and that maybe he should go slower. Suddenly he notices something and comments that it is not bad at all. Gary keeps advancing and says that they are catching up to the man. The masked man comments that it seems there is no need to go easy and challenges them to catch him if they can. With a bow in his hands, he realizes that they are getting close. The protagonist thinks that he is not very good at this and comments that he prefers moving using all four limbs. Arrows are fired and Ray immediately notices warning them to be careful. Everyone narrowly dodges, and someone next to him comments that he does not need to hold back so much because there are many of them and he will have to compensate for his own failure. The masked man comments that these children are very good and says that he wants to see how far they can go. The adventurer says not to stand still and to keep following, otherwise they will lose him, and reminds them that each of them must grab a bow. The test continues. The protagonist notices a bow and comments that it seems they will also do the fourth stage. Gary asks if they are testing accuracy with the bow, and Neslavia replies that she thinks so and tells them to move forward. The adventurer says that the targets have been placed in the forest ahead and that they will move on to the next part after hitting 3 of them. With her intervention, the fourth phase begins, the Eye of Precision. The protagonist thinks that he does not mind receiving the red band, but he also does not want to finish last, so there is no problem with showing off a little. Energies move. Ray notices something and warns them to be careful. Arrows are fired, and the protagonist thinks that he will not be able to escape from that. The arrows continue to be launched while Ray keeps running. Suddenly, someone fires an attack very close to him. The protagonist wonders if that is not too strong for a simple test. Gary comments that it was close, and someone asks if they are all right. Gary replies that they are fine and thanks the person, saying that the shooter is very good. The adventurer comments that she did not mention it before, but if she had not been close to him, she would not even be sure she could have done that. Ray warns them again to be careful, saying that another attack is coming, and thinks that something is not right. That arrow wrapped in chi is completely different from the arrows the examiner had fired earlier. Someone really wants to eliminate them, or perhaps wants to eliminate someone specific. Everyone becomes alert. The protagonist enters an attack stance and prepares his arrow. The bow is destroyed, leaving his companions surprised. Ray widens his eyes. The adventurer asks who is there. Another arrow is fired, an explosion occurs, and the pressure in the surroundings increases. The adventurer jumps to the ground and thinks that that speed is absurd, because someone managed to evade a full attack, leaving only a single trace behind. She wonders who in the world would try to attack students. The adventurer holds an arrow and apologizes for the fright, saying that one of her arrows accidentally left the target. She asks them to continue the test, and everyone answers that it is fine. The protagonist thinks that it was clearly not her who fired that arrow and that she is only trying to calm them. It seems that someone truly dangerous managed to infiltrate the place. At night, people discuss what happened. Neslavia asks why something like that happened and questions why he did not tell the knights. Ray replies that he thinks it is better not to tell. Gary agrees with him and says that the examiner did not tell them the whole truth. Although she may be trying to reassure them, she could also be hiding something. If someone was really trying to hurt them, that person managed to enter the place without being noticed, so it could very well be an examiner or some knight related to the test. Neslavia asks what he plans to do now. The protagonist replies that he will wait and see what happens, because he is very curious to discover who that bastard is. Somewhere else, something is thrown. A voice orders him to stop right there and asks why he attacked the new students. The voice tells him not to move, saying that from that distance he could bring him down immediately. The young man looks with a furious expression and replies that if that is the case, then there is nothing more to say. In another place, Delbert announces that that test is to evaluate willpower and chi manipulation, the fifth stage called the Will of Truth. Delbert explains that that sword was forged with an ultra beast crystal from a firebird, and that it releases flames when someone holds it. Although they have not yet learned how to use chi, they can try to control it through willpower by concentrating their spirit. He calls the first student to approach. Ian approaches, grabs the sword, which immediately begins releasing flames, but he cannot control it. Delbert then calls the next participant. Somewhere else, a voice asks if he is saying that he not only failed, but was also discovered by the examiner. The person apologizes. An elder replies that he also did not expect to resolve that problem immediately. The elder puts on a golden mask that allows the user to change appearance and says that at least he sent a signal to his followers. Now appearing as a different elder, he states that the Guild of Pure Blood has never disappeared. Meanwhile, in the test, Gary performs well, and Delbert calls the next participant. Gary wishes his partner good luck. Neslavia says that she has wanted to ask something for some time, and questions whether his partner is really that strong. Gary replies that at least from what he knows, he is extremely strong. Dan comments that until now, his results in the tests have been terrible. Neslavia asks why he thinks that. Gary replies that the last time they fought, he won easily. But that was 10 years ago when he was attacked by an intermediate-level demon wolf. It was his partner who defeated the creature and saved him. Dan says that he is joking because at that time they were only 5 years old and asks how it could have been an intermediate-level beast. He says that it was probably just a big wolf. Neslavia wonders if he was really that strong and why he would hide his abilities. Delbert announces for them to begin. The protagonist notices something. The system notifies that an ultra-grade beast crystal has been obtained and asks if he wishes to absorb it. Delbert watches with some confusion. Ray lifts the sword and swings it, but the flames do not appear, so he comments that he thinks it is broken. The people around say that it is indeed broken because it is not even glowing anymore, and comment that accidents always happen when this guy is involved. Delbert takes the sword and explains that it is a weapon created from an ultra-grade beast crystal, a treasure of the kingdom of Allure, and asks what he did to it. The protagonist asks what the hell he could have done, saying that after all it is a weapon made from an ultra-grade beast crystal, and also comments that Delbert is looking at him as if he were crazy. A guard approaches saying that there is an urgent report. Delbert asks what it is, and the guard whispers something into his ear. After hearing it, Delbert announces that all the tests have ended and that they can return to their rooms now. People comment that it is finally over because they're exhausted. Delbert also tells everyone to gather again at dinner time when the bands will be delivered, and states that Ray can also go. The protagonist wonders if what that knight said was true, because he heard the knight commenting that the examiner of the 4th test was found dead. Somewhere else, a guard reports that when they found her, she was already dead. Winford thinks that the body is still warm, so it has not been long since it happened, and orders that it be reported to the elders immediately. In the elders' meeting room, someone asks if she really died. The knight confirms and says that the cut was clean, seeming as if she was killed with a single strike, which indicates that the person responsible was extremely skilled. Another worrying detail is that none of the alarms set to detect intruders were triggered. One elder comments that it is quite possible that it is an internal case, since there have always been rumors about certain groups. Others mention the Guild of Pure Blood, or perhaps the Guild of Darkness, and say that it is outrageous to imagine that the captain of the Green Band Knights was killed during an exam, so they must discover the truth. An elder asks the chief's opinion. The chief of the elders replies that not a single word about this can leave that room and orders the knight captains to continue investigating until they find the culprit. Meanwhile, somewhere else, the students are nervous and curious about the color of the band they will receive. Neslavia comments that then she is Martha and that she finally has a roommate in the dormitory. Gary asks to wait and asks if her last name is Woodwork, questioning whether she knows Anne Woodwork. Martha asks if he knows her mother. The protagonist thinks that someone managed to kill a guard, so it was definitely not someone ordinary, perhaps even a big figure. If they consider only the limits of the academy, it could be the commanders or even the elders. Gary asks if Ray remembers the adventure they met on the road to Rainy years ago, saying that that woman turned out to be Martha's mother, an unexpected coincidence. He comments that Ray has been very distracted lately. Ray apologizes and says that he was thinking about the test. Neslavia asks if he is still thinking about the person who fired that arrow. The protagonist replies that he was only thinking about why the sword of the 5th test did not react to him, nothing more, and thinks that he should not tell them that the examiner was killed because that would only make the situation more dangerous. Neslavia comments that it was very strange, not only the sword but also the Inferno test. Suddenly they realize that the knight commanders have arrived and people comment that the time has finally come. Winford announces that at that moment they will deliver the knight bands and that everyone must approach when their name is called. Gary is the first to be called. People comment that he was the best overall and that he will definitely receive a white band. However, Winford announces that after careful consideration by the knights, he will receive a black band. Gary is surprised. Winford tells him to take good care of it. Gary did not expect that. People around ask what is happening, saying that he should have received a white band and questioning what it means to receive a black band. Then Ian receives the white band, leaving everyone surprised, commenting that that monstrous redhead got a white band. Everyone says that they already expected Naslavia to receive a white band. Dan asks how that is possible, saying that even the monk received a black band. Everyone then becomes curious to know which band Ray will receive. The protagonist thinks that his turn has finally come. Winford announces that after careful deliberation by the knights, he will receive a black band. Dan indignantly asks why he got a black band after performing so badly. The monk asks if perhaps he has some hidden talent. Dan asks if he is the only weak one there. Ray wonders why the hell he got the black band and if there is some conspiracy behind it. Winford says that all the bands have been delivered and that those are the results, regardless of whether they accept it or not. Starting tomorrow, they will train with different knights according to the colors of the bands. Gary asks what a black band is for. A boy looks at a sheet and comments about two redheads, saying that it is better that they do not get him into trouble. The next day at the training field, many people are gathered. Kyle says that everyone has arrived and asks why the instructor has not arrived yet, saying that he hopes it is someone normal. Someone arrives and asks if they are talking about him. He says that he himself is their instructor from now on and that they must follow him. They follow the instructor. Kyle asks if he mentioned his name just now, and the protagonist replies that he thinks he did not. Gary asks why he does not ask him directly. Kyle raises his hand and asks how they should address him. The instructor replies that they can call him K. Ray says that it is a strange name. Kyle comments that he bets it is not the real name. Delbert says that it is a coincidence that there are two redheads and comments that he feels sorry for him. He asks if Ray must be very happy for having received the black band and says that if he were the one making the decisions, he would not have allowed someone like Ray to appear in that academy. The protagonist replies that he is not the one making the decisions. Delbert tells him to be careful and says that he will be watching him. A sword is pointed at Delbert. The instructor tells him to remember that Ray is now a member of the Black Band Knights, and that it would not be good to allow discrimination to cause rivalry among them. Delbert replies that soon they will see whether that is discrimination, and says that sooner or later everyone will discover that the prophecy is wrong. He wishes them good luck and leaves. Gary asks about this so-called prophecy and says that he has never heard of it. Somewhere else a voice says that this is where they will have special training from now on. The place has intense pressure. Kyle asks where that sinister wind is coming from because he cannot even open his eyes. Gary has his hand on his face. They look around the place and comment that it is decrepit. The monk asks where the instructor is. Kyle says that he did not notice and asks when he disappeared. Noises are heard and everyone asks what is happening. The protagonist activates the dragon eye. Ray thinks that he disappeared and that even with the dragon eye, he cannot find him. Gary asks if he can see him. Ray replies that there is no way. Suddenly, the instructor appears and asks if they were looking for him. Everyone screams in fright. The instructor says that from today they will train in total darkness and that they must improve their abilities and sharpen their senses until the day they can become one with the darkness and turn into the sharpest weapon. Gary comments that he heard that Black Band Knights will be sent on elimination missions in the future and asks if that is true. The protagonist thinks about elimination and realizes that this is what worries Gary. The instructor replies that they were chosen precisely because they possess abilities that make them more suitable for carrying out elimination missions than the others. Gary asks why they cannot fight fairly like the others. The instructor replies that they were chosen in the first place because they have special qualities that the others do not have, and says that he can believe in himself because if he wants to fight fairly, he will still be able to do so. A weapon is thrown in their direction and the instructor tells them to think quickly and says that from today they can fight however they want. On a clock it appears that Ray's ranking is 300 and that today's training completion rate is 100%. The protagonist lying on his bed realizes that it shows the current ranking. According to what Mr. K said, the rankings would be renewed every day after training, and students from the same year could challenge each other whenever they wanted. If the lower-ranked student wins, he will take the place of the higher-ranked student, and the higher the ranking, the more resources he will obtain. Ray asks how many students there are in the year. Gary replies that there are about 300. The protagonist thinks that he is almost last and asks what Gary's ranking is. Gary is ranked number 1 with a training completion rate of 100% today. Dan is impressed and says that they were trying to guess who would end up first, and there he is. He comments that he is in the dormitory with the first and third place and that he will be able to do whatever he wants. Naslavia says that boys are so superficial and Martha laughs. Ian asks why the monk looks so happy, and the monk replies that it is nothing. The monk is ranked 65. 10 days later, Ray walks through the corridor and thinks that he did not get much from hunting today and that he is so close to 100 points for beginner beast crystals. The door opens and a voice asks what that noise means. The monk says that he only managed to climb in the ranking because of this special training, and Gary comments that maybe that is true, but that he thinks it is a little dishonest. In any case, it does not serve him for anything. They are not useless. He is simply bad at those things. He says that he can maintain his ranking without them anyway. The protagonist asks what is happening, and Dan replies that it is the first time he has seen the monk so agitated. They are arguing about whether the special training for black bands is really useful and asks what kind of training they did. Ray replies that it is just special training. He thinks that it is true that Gary is not good at stealth elimination and hiding traces, while the monk on the other hand showed great talent in that. Gary is also completely wrong because he is better than the monk in the fundamentals, and even though the monk is getting stronger quickly, Gary is still stronger than him overall. The monk, irritated, says that Gary cannot simply belittle all his hard work like that. Gary replies that he can think whatever he wants because he has already said what he had to say. Naslavia intervenes and says that it is fine and that they should stop arguing. The protagonist approaches and asks why they do not settle it in a fight. Dan says that it is a good idea, but Naslavia tells them not to fuel the flames there. The monk says that he agrees and proposes that they have a ranked battle. Gary accepts and says that it is fine, but that he wants to see if those abilities he loves so much are really useful in a battle. Somewhere else, people comment that someone is challenging number 1 in a ranking battle and say that it is another black band who also has a very high ranking. The younger children of Sebastian Delbert comment on the battle and say that it is nothing important, just some country bumpkins fighting. Kyle then says to place their bets, calling the fight the main star against the dark horse, and asks who will have the last laugh. Dan puts 10 silver coins betting on Gary. Naslavia, irritated, asks how he can bet on dormitory mates like that. Martha also places a bet, but bets on the monk, saying that maybe he will surprise them. Naslavia is surprised and asks if she also bet. Kyle thanks them for the bets. Naslavia then asks Ray if he thinks the monk has any chance. Meanwhile, in the arena, Kyle announces that the battle is about to begin and says that everyone will witness that moment together. The protagonist asks if she thinks Gary will win too. Kyle tells them to prepare and at his signal begin. Ray comments that Gary is definitely talented and has excellent technique standing out among all of them. At the same time, the monk trained more than anyone else during the special training, so he has probably become Gary's greatest rival now. Smoke moves and the monk thinks it worked, but the attack is blocked by Gary. People are surprised because that attack looked very powerful. Gary tells him to give up because he cannot defeat him. The protagonist comments that the monk definitely improved a lot, but Gary still needs to deal with him carefully, although he still believes Gary will win. Naslavia agrees and says that it seems the monk still has not filled the gap between their abilities, at least not in such a short time. The monk does not like what just happened, and Gary says that now it is his turn. Gary advances and breaks the monk's sword in half. The monk is surprised. The piece of the broken sword falls to the ground. Gary says it is over and apologizes, but says that this is how things are. The monk replies that no, it is not over yet. The energy around the monk's hand begins to intensify, and the protagonist notices it. The monk grabs the piece of the broken sword and advances from behind, saying again that it is not over yet. Naslavia shouts for them to be careful, and Martha tells the monk to stop. Gary notices the movement and turns around. People are surprised, and Naslavia asks when that happened. At that moment, the protagonist arrives in time and blocks the monk's strike. The monk apologizes. Naslavia thinks that he was so fast that she could not even follow the movements, but Ray managed to get there in such a short time, and she wonders how he did it. The monk asks them to forgive him because he was very impulsive, and comments that if Ray had not stopped him, someone would have been seriously injured. Ray replies that it was only a scratch. People become curious to know who won and begin discussing among themselves. Kyle asks for calm and says that since someone intervened in the fight, the result will not be counted, and everyone will receive back the money they bet. People begin throwing bottles and say that he did that on purpose and that they could have won money. Kyle insists that he will return the money and asks them to calm down. The crowd continues throwing things and shouting that it is all his fault, asking what the point is of getting their money back. Some begin insulting them, calling them damned redheads and redheaded monsters. People continue throwing things at them, and the monk tries to ask everyone to calm down, but the crowd is completely furious. Gary asks if his partner is alright, and the protagonist says that they should leave. Martha says that the battle is over and that everyone should calm down, while Naslavia also asks them to stop. One of the boys says that he will show how they like it and prepares to throw something. The monk tries to stop him and says not to do it, saying that it has nothing to do with Ray. The boy becomes irritated and says that he will remember this. The blonde boy watches everything with irritation. The crowd begins stoning the redheads, especially Ray, shouting terrible and completely unnecessary things. The protagonist, injured, wonders why it is always like this. He thinks that those people are filthy humans and that hearing those poisonous words was almost like being wrapped in a wave of toxic mud. Ray becomes more and more irritated hearing everything. Suddenly, someone shouts silence, and it is Winford. People ask why he is there and whether he also bet. Gary says that his partner is injured and needs to be healed immediately. Winford replies that he can help with that. The protagonist says that it is fine that it was only a scratch and asks if there is something Winford needs. Winford replies that his mother is there. Ray is surprised when he hears that. Somewhere else, the protagonist approaches and sees that it is really his mother. The mage says that it has been a long time and comments that he has grown. Ray replies that it is true and that he became a little taller. He says that he does not need to talk about himself first and asks whether his father improved after she arrived. The mage replies that his father is gone. The protagonist is shocked and asks if he lost his life. The mage replies that that is not what she meant, only that he left home. Ray says that this is impossible and asks whether he was not confined to bed since he was infected, so how could he suddenly begin to move? Winford, listening behind the door, thinks that he could not tell Ray the truth about the shadow plague in the past. Winford thinks that those who become infected usually lose their lives within a year and that very few can endure it like Jack did. But in the end, even those strong survivors eventually become slaves to the shadows, turning into vectors that spread the plague even further. There has never been an exception to this. The mage says that, in fact, it was only that day that she learned how much his father had fought against the shadow plague during the last decade. That day, she heard a noise. Jack was sitting there saying strange things, and several objects were scattered on the floor. Jack turns to her, still wounded, and says that scars remain. The mage immediately runs to hug him, saying that he woke up and that this is wonderful. Jack, while embracing her, says he can't do it, that he can't control it for much longer, and that she should eliminate him. The mage answers that there is no way she could do that, but Jack insists that she must eliminate him. Suddenly, Jack takes on a shadowy appearance, and the mage asks what is happening. Jack screams with terrifying energy, releasing an enormous pressure. The mage begins to cry heavily while Jack keeps repeating that she must eliminate him, leaving her completely desperate. Flames move around them, and Jack repeats that she must eliminate him now and that it needs to be done quickly. In the present, after hearing the story, the protagonist says that she couldn't do it after all. The mage replies that after all, he is his father, and that he also left this behind, so she thought she should deliver it personally. Ray asks what it is. In the letter, it says that he is sorry for not being able to grow up beside him, and that from the day they laid eyes on him, both he and his mother knew he was special. He says he knows that he joined the Night Academy and that he is much stronger than he appears, and because of that, he is very proud. He also says he is sorry for no longer being able to stay by his side and hopes that he will live his life however he wishes. He thanks him for becoming his son and says he will always love him. Tears run down the protagonist's face, and Ray wonders why he wrote that, as if it were his last words, promising himself that he will find a way to save him. In the dormitories, the protagonist lies on the bed remembering his mother saying that she would find his father no matter what he had become, and Ray replied that he would go with her. The mage said no, that he has his own path to follow and that she is sure his father would want that as well. She says she is very happy to have seen him again and that he does not need to worry about her, only about following his duty. In the present, the protagonist thinks that a decade has already passed and he has done nothing, has not improved at all, just like an ordinary human. He was not able to avenge his race nor protect those he loves, and everything feels like a mess. Suddenly, Ray stands up. Gary says that he is back and asks if he found his mother, what she said, and if his father is all right. The protagonist simply starts walking away and answers yes. Gary thinks that there is definitely something strange. Suddenly, Gary notices a paper on the floor, and it is Ray's father's letter. Dan takes the letter from his hand and says that he was staring at it so intensely that it must be a love letter from some fan. Gary tells him to return it immediately. Dan says not to be shy and to let him see that passionate confession, but Gary insists that he must give it back. At that moment, Naslavia enters the room and asks what they are doing, and Dan replies that it is something addressed to Ray. When Naslavia hears that, she is surprised. Then Gary explains what happened, and Naslavia says that his father was infected by the shadow plague. Dan comments that thinking about it, he must have had a very difficult childhood, and that maybe they should treat him better. The monk becomes thoughtful about it. In the cafeteria, Martha approaches Ray and calls him to eat together, and Naslavia appears saying what a coincidence, also inviting him. The protagonist becomes confused. In the dormitories, Ray's clothes and blanket are neatly arranged. Dan comments that Naslavia was the one who did that and asks what he thinks, saying that she is a very nice girl, and Ian agrees, repeating the same thing. The protagonist wonders what is going on with those guys. The next day, freshly picked lilies are left for him, and Ray asks what all of that is about. Gary replies that he just thought that seeing freshly picked flowers might brighten the atmosphere. The protagonist tells him not to say that he fell in love with himself, and Gary says that is impossible. Ray then asks what exactly they are doing. Gary apologizes, saying that he saw his letter by accident and apologizes again for invading his privacy, saying that he should not have looked and that he did not tell everyone to come and look together, but that everything happened because of him, and that is how everyone found out. The protagonist says that they are the best. Gary asks if he is not angry. At that moment, someone outside shouts for them to bring him inside quickly and get out of the way. The monk is badly injured and his friends approach carrying him. Gary asks what happened, and Dan replies that it was Sebastian, saying that he provoked the monk into entering a ranking battle. The protagonist asks about that ranking battle and comments that they usually end immediately when one side surrenders, so he asks how he could have been injured so badly. Dan explains that the monk had already fainted and did not even have the chance to surrender. But even so, Sebastian did not stop and kept beating him, saying that he definitely did that on purpose. The monk calls for Ray and apologizes for not being able to help him make the bed in the last few days. Naslavia says that it looks like his limbs are fractured and that they need a doctor, while Ian says he will go look for one immediately. The protagonist begins walking away and Gary asks where he is going. Ray replies that he is going to get revenge for what he did to the monk. Gary tries to stop him and tells him to wait, asking him not to act impulsively. The protagonist asks if he wants to come along then, and Gary says he wants to get revenge for the monk, but hesitates. Ray asks what that "but" means, and says that it is eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. Naslavia explains that the problem is that Sebastian belongs to House Delbert, and Gary agrees, saying that he is the youngest son of Lord Delbert and that they cannot simply go against him. The protagonist asks what the problem is, saying that he was the one who started it, so he must pay for what he did. Gary asks if he does not understand that this is not the first time Sebastian has done something like that no one in the academy wants to challenge him, and that this could end with Ray being expelled. Ray replies that it is fine, and that he is not that stupid. If he can challenge him in an official ranking battle, then he can get revenge in a fair way. They try to stop him, but they cannot. Later, in the training room, the students are practicing. When the protagonist approaches, they ask if he's not one of them, and say that they are training at the moment, so he must wait. Ray asks which one of them is Sebastian. The two students reply that he never mentioned having a red-haired friend before, and the protagonist says that if they are not who he is looking for, then they should get out of his way. A boy in the back asks what is going on. The partner replies that that guy tried to come in there, and that he is looking for Sebastian. Eric says he does not know any crazy red-haired guy, and asks if his parents never taught him manners, asking if he cannot see that they are training. The protagonist replies that if he is not the one he is looking for, then it has nothing to do with him. At that moment, Sebastian approaches and asks if he was the one who called him. He says that since he is a black belt, he came to take his friend back, but Ray says he does not need any small talk and directly challenges him to fight. Sebastian says that was very straightforward and tells him to forget it. The protagonist asks if he is afraid. Sebastian replies that it will not be a fight. When he saw his rank, he thought that other black belt was the strongest among them, but he was very weak, saying he did not hurt him on purpose and that it is simply the natural difference between them, commoners and people like them, and that he does not want something like that to happen again. Eric comments that his partner may not want to lower his level to fight Ray, but he does not mind. He says he is currently 9th in the ranking and that if he fights Ray, other people might also become interested in facing him. He asks if that works for him, and Sebastian tells him to go ahead. The protagonist asks if, after defeating him, Sebastian will accept his request. Sebastian replies that he can do that and talk afterward. The people around comment that they will see a real fight again, saying that this is what happens when you are in a strong team because challenges appear every day, and they hope he lasts long enough. Eric says Ray seems very confident and that he should not cry later asking someone to avenge him. Some people ask why that redhead has not drawn his sword yet. Eric thinks this is the perfect chance to show what he can do and decides to use what Sebastian taught him. Sebastian comments that here he goes again. Eric rushes forward with his sword trying to hit Ray, but Ray dodges. Eric wonders how he managed to dodge that and says it is not over yet. Eric keeps trying to strike him in every possible way, but the protagonist dodges all the blows. Eric thinks he is using the fastest attack he can perform, yet Ray still avoids everything. Suddenly, Eric receives a punch and falls to the ground. Eric wonders how that is possible. The protagonist asks if that is enough for him to fight him now, and the people who run to help Eric say that he fainted and that they need to take him to the infirmary. Sebastian asks what is the point of defeating Eric, and Ray replies that if he wins, then those two intermediate crystals will belong to him. Sebastian is surprised to see the crystals and asks where he got them, saying he does not want to get involved in trouble because of suspicious items. The protagonist replies that his parents are adventurers and left them to him, and asks what Sebastian thinks about having the chance to obtain those crystals now, while he has not even used them yet to make equipment. Sebastian says he accepts the challenge but imposes one condition: the ranking battle must be held in public. The protagonist replies that this is exactly what he wanted from the beginning, and Sebastian explains that he does not want people to think he took those crystals from him against his will. Later, in the arena, many people gather. Kyle asks if his partner is really going to fight that guy and says he heard he is ranked second. If that is true, he does not think it is a good idea. Even if Ray wants to make quick money betting on himself losing, he says he will not hold back. The protagonist tells him not to worry, and Kyle says he cannot stop him anyway, asking him at least to make Sebastian's nose bleed. Then Kyle starts organizing the bets. Dan asks how long they think their partner will last, while Ian says he just hopes he does not get hurt. Naslavia says she does not think it will be that simple. Dan replies that love really makes people blind, and Naslavia, irritated, asks what he's talking about, saying she could never like that guy and explaining that this is not the point. According to her, Dan is the one who is blind for not seeing how strong Ray really is. Gary thinks that instead of worrying about whether Ray can win, he's more worried about Delbert getting angry with him because of this. Sebastian then starts talking, saying that the sons of knights become knights and the sons of farmers become farmers, claiming that no one can cross the barriers of class. He adds that Ray became a little more confident after defeating Eric, but that he will quickly realize the difference between the two of them when they truly fight. The protagonist tells him to leave the complaining to his lackeys, and the official of the match tells them to take their positions as he begins the countdown. 2, 1. The battle begins, and Sebas immediately rushes forward without hesitation. Gary becomes very worried, but the protagonist dodges the attack. Sebastian says he was very lucky, explaining that few people can dodge his first attack, and Ray replies that his luck is actually very bad. At that moment, Sebastian notices something and says that it is very shallow, adding that if that is all he has, then he will never be able to defeat him. The protagonist asks why he talks so much and whether he has been winning all his fights only because of his big mouth. Sebastian replies that his luck ends there. Ray dodges again and during the movement ends up causing a wound on his opponent, leaving Sebastian confused. Dan asks if their partner just attacked and why Sebas was the first to get hurt. Ian replies that he does not know because he could not see what happened either. Gary begins to wonder when his partner learned that and realizes that the way Ray dodges Sebas's attacks is almost identical to Mr. K's style. Sebastian then releases a powerful aura and says he wants to see if Ray can dodge that attack, while the people around comment that his chi is being converted directly into the sword. Sebas rushes again, but the protagonist dodges easily. Sebastian says he knew he would do that and attacks once more, striking Ray directly and asking why he kept dodging all the time and why he did not dodge now. The crowd begins shouting, saying he should finish that red-haired brat and show what real strength is. Dan says their partner spent all that time dodging, so it was expected he would get hit eventually, adding that that bastard went too far. Gary tells him not to worry, and Dan asks what he means. Naslavia then tells him to look more closely, explaining that the one truly at a disadvantage there is Sebas. Blood begins to drip onto the ground, and Sebastian appears severely wounded, with cuts spread all over his body. Dan, shocked, asks how that happened, saying their partner was only dodging the entire time, and Gary explains that no, Ray had actually been attacking the entire time. Dan asks since when because he did not notice anything, and Gary explains that every time Ray dodged one of Sebastian's attacks, he counterattacked at least once, hitting Sebas little by little and continuously draining his energy. Sebastian, furious, says that not even his own father defeated him that way and screams that he will eliminate him. He rushes forward with extremely fast movements, but Ray attacks him again. Dan asks if that is even possible and how he can be so strong. Naslavia says Ray had several chances to win immediately, but wonders why he still has not finished the fight, and Gary replies that he thinks he's doing it on purpose. According to Gary, Ray wants to torture him little by little, playing with him like a predator plays with its prey. Sebastian then mentions his own face and asks how Ray dares to do that to him, and the protagonist, determined to avenge the monk, advances once again and attacks again. Sebas places his hand over his face, feeling pain, and tells him to wait and not dare to run, saying his father will not let him escape and that he is finished. Ray replies that honestly talking to someone like him is a waste of time and energy. Sebas, crying, asks him to wait and says that he gives up, but the protagonist hits him anyway and thinks that he will not be able to surrender so easily because he still has to avenge everything he did to his partner. Naslavia says this is bad, and Gary agrees. At that moment, a voice orders them to stop, and it is the monk. The protagonist wonders why he told him to stop. Sebastian then says he gives up, and the official announces that the fight is over and that Ray is the winner. Several students run into the arena worried about Sebas. Gary also runs over worried about his partner. The students say they must take Sebastian to the infirmary because those wounds should receive points. Sebas, very angry, tells everyone to get out and says Ray will still see who gets the last laugh. At the Avrian Night Academy in the central building on the top floor, a voice says they cannot forgive him so easily for that. Mr. K says he thinks he should calm down, explaining that from a knight's perspective, Ray did not break any rules and that they should not ignore the rules either. Delbert replies that if he really ignored the rules, he would have eliminated that brat immediately and says they should look carefully at what he did to his son, claiming that he is basically disfigured and that Ray must have done it on purpose, saying he was born to be a demon. An elder says he thinks Delbert's words are not entirely without merit and says that if the prophecy is true, then the red-haired boy will destroy the kingdom. He then adds that the same prophecy also predicted that the red-haired boy could become the chosen savior of this world. He asks if Elder Vaughn does not think that child has already shown signs of becoming a calamity. Elder Vaughn replies that yes, and that precisely because of that, they must be even more cautious. He explains that expelling him would be easy, but asks what that would cause and who could guarantee that it would not trigger the beginning of the end. The elder then says that this debate makes no sense, and that since everyone has different opinions, they should vote. He asks those who agree with Ray's expulsion to raise their hands. Delbert, Elder Gibbet, and the Knightmaster Rose raise their hands. Then he asks those who disagree to raise their hands. Chief Elder Humphrey, Instructor Bernardo, and Winford raise their hands. The result is 3 in favor, 6 against, and 2 abstentions, and thus the expulsion is not approved. On the dormitory rooftop, the protagonist is lying down. Someone approaches saying that they did not see him in the dorms and assumed he would be there. Ray replies that he just wanted to be alone for a while. Naslavia asks if he is thinking about the monk. The protagonist asks how she knew. Naslavia replies that she does not know how to explain it well, but that he may simply be different from normal people, saying he is not very good at talking or understanding other people's emotions. Ray replies that he does not care. Naslavia says that is not what she meant and explains that even so, she knows he is not a bad person. She says that whenever she sees him confused or angry, she wishes she could help him somehow and hopes he can trust them a little more. After all, they are his friends. Suddenly, a quick movement happens and the protagonist presses her against the wall. Looking into his eyes, Naslavia comments about the dragon eye. Ray asks if she is afraid of him. Naslavia replies that sometimes she is, but repeats that she does not think he is a bad person. She says that his eye is very beautiful and suits him, saying that he should not treat himself like a monster. The protagonist's eyes return to normal and he turns his back to her, thinking that every time he feels he has seen what humanity truly is, things immediately change. And it seems he still has a long way to go before he truly understands humans. Somewhere else, Delbert slams the door hard and thinks that he does not care about that prophecy and that one day he will eliminate that demon. Someone calls him. Delbert asks what he wants, and Gibby replies that nothing special is happening. He says he knows that Delbert believes knights should only come from noble blood, and comments that this point of view caught his attention. Delbert says yes. Somewhere else, someone asks if Ray lives there. Naslavia replies that if he is looking for him, he is upstairs. The person thanks her and goes up the stairs. Naslavia thinks that person seems very familiar and wonders if there was someone like that year. On the roof, the protagonist, without seeing who it is, asks why she came back again. The student replies that maybe he is not the person he thinks he is, and says it is a pleasure to meet him, introducing himself as Harry Delbert from the second year. Ray asks if he is from the same family. Harry says yes and explains that the one Ray defeated today is his younger brother. The protagonist asks if he came to get revenge. Harry replies that no, saying Ray misunderstood his intentions because he actually wants to thank him. The protagonist finds that strange and asks why he would do that. Harry explains that he knows his brother can be arrogant and that, honestly, he never trained seriously, so it was only a matter of time before he was defeated. Because of that, he believes that defeat will serve as a good lesson. Ray says that if there is nothing else, he will leave. Harry asks him not to hurry and explains that they cannot have a ranking battle because they are not in the same year, but he can still teach him a lesson. He says he also needs to settle some things with his own older brother. Then, after all that conversation, he makes it clear that he came there to fight as well. Harry says he just wants to see how strong the person who defeated his brother really is, and asks Ray to show what he is capable of. The protagonist thinks that he normally does not like to strike first, but Harry gives off a different feeling from everyone else, so he decides to make an exception. Ray rushes forward, but Harry blocks easily, showing impressive power. The protagonist steps back a few steps. Harry says it was not bad and comments that he was surprised by Ray's decision. Ray thinks that it is strange because normally the opponent's sword would have already broken after an attack like that, but this time he is sure that if they keep going like this, his own sword will break first. Harry comments that it seems Ray still does not know how to use chi properly. The protagonist realizes that he cannot win with brute force alone and decides to use the black belt techniques he learned. Harry observes that it is not bad and asks if that is all he has. Ray begins to wonder if that really did not work. Suddenly, Harry advances, hits him directly, and throws him away. The protagonist supports himself with the sword on the ground to remain standing and spits blood. Harry says that it seems the fight ends there, and that this is enough for today. Ray keeps coughing and asks him to wait. Then he asks if Harry is the second-year knight apprentice with the best ranking. Harry replies that of course not, saying he is only ranked 50th. The protagonist is surprised. Harry says they can fight again when Ray learns how to use chi properly. Ray asks if someone can really become that strong after learning how to use chi. At night, lightning illuminates the sky while a voice says that the situation at the border is not good because more and more knights have been disappearing lately. He also says that the enemies are not only outside but also inside, and that there are rumors that the Dark Guild has already infiltrated the academy. An elder replies that unfortunately this is not just a rumor. Winford asks if they should not do something about it and suggests that they at least warn the students. The elder replies that this will be done, but says there is something even more important at stake. He orders them to bring those 5 children to him and to inform some about the summons. Somewhere else, the protagonist tries several times to converge the aura into his body but never succeeds. Ray sits on the roof until he notices it begins to rain. Suddenly, he notices something strange and asks what those people are doing there, wondering if they are preparing an ambush. He realizes that this is bad. 3 people are hiding. The protagonist activates the Dragon Eye and realizes that those colors are the Shadow Plague, asking himself if those people have some connection to his father. The men tell the elder that this is the end of his path. The elder replies that it seems the rumors about the Dark Guild infiltrating the academy are true. One of the bandits says he realized too late and declares that the Dark Guild will soon take control of the entire academy and that no one will be able to stop them. The elder replies that nothing is better than a challenge to loosen the body after so long standing still. At that moment, someone approaches and asks what he thinks about 2 against 4. The elder asks if that boy is one of the students and apologizes for involving him in this. The bandits ask where that boy came from, but say it does not matter because the 2 of them will die there. The elder releases a terrifying aura, and the protagonist immediately realizes that that old man's chi is on a completely different level. The bandits attack. Ray dodges and realizes that unlike what happened with his father, those men still maintain their consciousness. The bandits attack again, but the protagonist evades and appears behind one of them ready to strike. However, another bandit interferes and blocks the attack. Ray retreats again and the bandits notice something. That boy does not know how to use chi. He is just an amateur. The protagonist realizes they discovered it. The bandits mock him, asking if he is trying to bite the sword with his mouth and say it does not matter, ordering them to eliminate him first. They start attacking him from every possible angle, but Ray keeps dodging every blow. The bandits comment that the brat's movements are strange and that they cannot catch him, so they decide to split up and attack him from both sides so he cannot escape. At that moment, the 2 bandits notice something unexpected. Their other 2 companions have already been defeated. The elder, releasing an absurd aura, says that they should at least keep going and that he wants to see what this child is capable of. The 2 surviving bandits ask what they should do now and whether they should use that, but then say that first they need to deal with this annoying brat before anything else. Ray thinks that since he has the chance to fight, then he does not mind fighting and tells them to come at him. The protagonist dodges another attack and counterattacks. The bandits notice the movement, but they manage to dodge and tell him not to get so full of himself. Ray stares at them. One of the bandits tries to hit him and says he wants to see where he will run this time, but the protagonist dodges once again. The elder then tells him to grab the enemy's hand, pull it toward himself, turn, and use the impact to throw him over his shoulder. Ray follows exactly what he taught and manages to hit the bandit head-on. On the other side, the elder strikes the other bandit and with his incredible power causes an explosion. The protagonist looks on in surprise and thinks that he really is very strong. The elder comments that it seems the knights have arrived. The surviving bandit complains about his bad luck. Ray tells him not to run away. The elder tells him to forget it and says not to chase someone who is already at the limit. The system then notifies him that mana siphon has been obtained, and Ray wonders about this new skill, thinking that finally, after all these years, a knight approaches asking if he is alright, and the elder replies not to worry about that, saying he will leave the rest to them. He comments that one of them escaped, so they can go after him if they want. The knight orders them to split into 2 groups and continue the search because they cannot let him escape. The elder thanks him for the help and says that he is a very talented student. The protagonist asks why those men attacked him, saying that he is curious. The elder replies that when someone lives long enough, they end up meeting all kinds of strange people. Ray thinks that he is not wrong, but feels that he is avoiding a direct answer. The elder asks if he still does not know how to use chi and tells him to join the martial arts club when he reaches his second year. The protagonist asks about that club and the elder confirms it, saying he is sure he will learn a lot there. A light turns on and Ray thinks that old man is really strange. Somewhere else, Winfred says that he is back and comments that he was about to go look for him because the chief elder summoned him. The protagonist thinks that he was discovered far too quickly. In another room, the elder is looking at the rain through the window when someone knocks on the door. A voice announces that they have arrived, and the chief tells them to come in. All the red-haired boys enter together with Ray, who wonders why they were also called. The chief thanks them for taking the time to come there. Ian replies that it is a pleasure. Kyle comments that he probably has a special mission for them, and the protagonist asks if there is something they need to do. The chief says that young people today always seem to be in a hurry, but believes they will understand if he explains everything, so he will get straight to the point. The reason they were all summoned there today is a prophecy. Ray asks about this prophecy. 10 years ago, there was a prophecy from the heavens, and according to it, the land would one day be saved from destruction by a red-haired boy. Kyle asks if that means it could be any of them. The chief replies that after searching across the whole land, they found 10 children who match that description. The protagonist asks about 10 and thinks that is a lot. Kyle says there are only 5 there, and the chief explains that the other 5 had aptitude for magic and are studying at Roland Magic Academy. Ray thinks that it is the same academy as Amy's, so that means she probably already knows those people, and he wonders how she is doing. Everyone is surprised, and Kyle asks if one of them is going to save the world. The chief answers that it may be one of them or it may be all of them, and that is why they were all summoned there today. In the past, 5 dragon knights saved this land from a great danger. They defeated the shadows, founded Avria Knight Academy, and protected the common people, leaving behind an invaluable legacy. The elder says that now the responsibility of protecting that legacy falls upon their shoulders, and that naturally this means they will need to work even harder. From today onward, in addition to basic training and the special training of each rank, they will have to go through even more training. The 5 of them will become the new generation of Dragon Knights of Avria Knight Academy. After that, they leave the room. The twins comment that they are going to become saviors. Kyle asks if everything is alright and whether Ray is not happy about it. Ian asks what happened. Kyle comments that he's a strange guy. The protagonist then asks one thing, whether their hair has always been red. Ian answers yes and says that he believes everyone there is like that, adding that he himself got into a lot of trouble because of it when he was a child as well. Ray thinks that he already knew that because he had asked him about it before. Their hair had always been red, while his changed from black to red. Setting aside whether he should still be considered a Dragon Knight because of that, he feels that it is questionable how much of the Chief Elder's words can really be believed. He's probably hiding something from them. Meanwhile, it is still night and the rain keeps falling outside. Winfred enters the room and says that he does not understand, asking why he did not tell the children the whole prophecy now. The elder replies that they already carry burdens enough for someone so young and that certain things should only be revealed when they are ready. Winfred replies that he understands. The next day, the protagonist spends a long time researching Dragon Knights. What surprises him the most is that although many people still think of dragons as symbols of evil and destruction, and some do not even believe such creatures ever existed, a small minority still believes that in a distant past, this world was not haunted by shadows, and that dragons were the protectors of this land. In many literary works, Dragon Knights are described as powerful heroes. Among those books, one in particular catches his attention. That book records personal information from the Dragon Knights themselves, including their equipment, weapons, combat abilities, and even their personalities. The difference between that book and the others is that it also mentions the guidance of a god. Books that speak of gods are forbidden to humans, so he cannot find much useful information about that. What he heard is that this god really exists and lives in the capital of the Kingdom of Allura near Roland Magic Academy. If it were not for the fact that he cannot leave Avrion before finishing his night training, he would have gone immediately to speak with that god and ask why the hell he had been turned into a human. A year passes in the blink of an eye. Ray spends that time training and also taking part in hunts whenever he finds an opportunity. Tomorrow will be the first day of the second year of training. The protagonist is lying down when he hears a noise. Gary is asleep and talking in his sleep. Ray tells him to wake up and wonders if he's having a nightmare. Gary wakes up and asks why he is there. The protagonist replies that he woke him up with all that noise and asks if everything is all right. Gary says yes, that it was just a nightmare, and tells him to go back to bed, reminding him that tomorrow there will be a ceremony. Ray goes back to his bed and thinks that Gary is forcing it, as he always does, and wonders what kind of nightmare could have scared him so much. The next day, the protagonist thinks that maybe that nightmare was something more. Naslavia says good morning to both of them and asks if they have already chosen a club to join. Ray asks what club she is talking about. Naslavia shows him a paper and replies that he should pay more attention, because all second-year students need to choose a club to join and receive training there. The protagonist asks whether she has already chosen hers. Naslavia replies that she is going to join the medical club. Gary says that he already chose the sword club. Ray asks whether he had already thought about that before. Then he remembers that someone commented something about joining a club, but he cannot remember which one it was. Martial arts club. The protagonist remembers the strange old man telling him to join that club. He thinks that there is no club he really wants to join, but that it does not hurt to take a look. If it gets boring, he can always slip out and use the time to hunt beasts. The system then notifies him mana bar added. Ray realizes that after gaining this ability, he discovered that he has no mana. Now he understands why he failed the assessment years ago. Maybe that will change when he starts absorbing intermediate beast crystals. After defeating Sebastian, he could no longer act so freely, since many eyes are now on him. His rank is still far too high, so he needs to give up some fights. Later, in the martial arts club building, the protagonist looks around and comments that the place is very isolated. Ray goes in and wonders whether there really is a club there, since no one is guarding the entrance and the building looks abandoned. He asks whether anyone is there, and says he came to join the martial arts club. There is no answer. The protagonist thinks that he cannot sense anyone's presence and wonders if the person is unconscious. He asks for permission and approaches. The moment Ray tries to touch the man, the elder grabs his hand, strikes him, and throws him to the ground. He asks who is there and how he dares to invade that place. The protagonist replies that he came to join the martial arts club and remembers that it was he himself who told him to come there. The elder is surprised to see the red hair and says that he is the student who helped him that day, saying that he was a good kid. Ray asks why he attacked a stranger without even knowing why he came there. The elder apologizes and explains that many strange people have been appearing directly in that place, so he ended up getting a little tense. He says that he is happy that Ray followed his advice and that he will be his first student. The protagonist asks about that first, and whether no one has ever joined that club before. He thinks that this old man tricked him, and wonders how he's going to escape if it is 1 against 1. The elder says that when he met him, he did not know how to use chi, so they will start with the basics. He asks if Ray has ever heard the saying that when a chi-driven fist meets a sword, the sword breaks, but when both the sword and the fist are driven by chi, the sword wins. Ray comments that it is no wonder everyone chose other clubs since martial arts are clearly on the losing side. The elder replies that this happens because people do not understand martial arts. The protagonist asks if he is serious and says he does not believe it. The elder replies that when he learns what he teaches, he will realize that hands are the best weapons. Ray then asks who the people were who attacked him that day. The elder replies that they are from the Dark Guild. The protagonist asks about that guild. The elder says that he will learn more about it in the second year of studies, but explains that it is a radical organization that wants to overthrow the kingdom of Allure. Their leader used to be a high official of Avrian Knight Academy in the past, and the organization was created after he was expelled from the academy. Ray thinks that based on the aura they had, that has something to do with the Shadow Plague. Maybe they know something about his father, and then he asks why they were after the elder. The elder says that maybe he should not be telling him so much, but since he owes him a favor, he will tell him the truth. They wanted to take his life because he is one of the 6 elders of Avrian Knight Academy. He adds that he may be old, but he still has a lot of confidence in these muscles and that he can show what he is capable of. The protagonist thinks that it seems he knows about himself and says that he is going to use all his strength. Ray also thinks that he is just an old man, so there is no need to worry about holding back. The protagonist uses all his strength and hits him, but the elder remains intact. Ray thinks that it is too hard, as if he had hit a metal board. The elder, surprised, asks if he used chi in that attack. The protagonist answers no. The elder says that he is stronger than a bull and that his potential is incredible. Once he masters chi, he will soar into the heavens. Ray thinks that this old man does not seem very trustworthy. The elder says to begin, and the protagonist thinks that he would not take part in this and wonders if it is still too late to leave. The elder begins explaining that when they speak about chi, they are referring to the energy that comes from within, and that as human beings, they produce chi simply by breathing. The stronger someone is physically, the more chi they can use. He explains that making chi flow through the body is the key to understanding it. He then says that he will transfer a little chi into Ray's body and guide that chi inside him, and that he must not reject it, only feel the flow through his body. Ray thinks that it is very hot and wonders if chi can really flow like that. But suddenly the elder faints, and the protagonist asks what's wrong, and why the system appeared now. Ray then grows worried when he sees the elder collapsed and asks what happened, thinking that if he dies, he will have to answer for it. The The protagonist puts his ear to the old man's chest to feel his heart and realizes it is still beating. Ray thinks that it seems he just fainted and wonders what just happened. Then he realizes something. His mana absorption ability was activated. He wonders why the system absorbed mana from the elder's body when he was transferring chi to him, and whether he might have absorbed all of his mana. 5 minutes later, the protagonist is still worried and asks why he still has not woken up, saying that after all, he is very strong. 10 minutes later, the elder is still unconscious, and Ray comments that that old man must not die no matter what, so he may as well use this time to train. Ray activates the dragon eye and realizes that now he can see the flow of chi. He decides to try making chi flow according to his thoughts and concentrates it in the solar plexus. It works. Then he tries to make the energy circulate through the body. The protagonist wonders why it disappears when he tries to manipulate it. Ray tries again. The energy dissipates once more. The protagonist wonders what is going on and why the flow of chi is so unstable, thinking that maybe there is not enough chi. He decides to try using more chi. Ray tries again and feels it beginning to hurt. The chi becomes even stronger. At that moment, the elder wakes up, looks in his direction in shock, and asks what he is doing, telling him not to move. The elder tells him to hold on and push it away. When Ray is pushed, an explosion happens outside, destroying everything around them. The elder says that an amount of destructive power at that level could only have been drawn from his own body, and that he almost ended up killing himself. The protagonist falls to the ground and faints. Later, when he begins to wake up, he thinks that it is very noisy. Naslavia comments that he is already practically recovered and that he should wake up at any moment. Ray asks where he is, and Kyle replies by asking where else he would be, saying that of course he is in the hospital. Naslavia explains that an old man rushed him there earlier and that everyone got a huge scare. Kyle says that he even asked the hospital director to examine him, and asks since when he knows someone like that, saying that he did very well. Naslavia repeats that the place is the hospital. Kyle then asks who that old man is to dare speak directly to the director like that. Ray thinks that the volume of his voice is truly impressive. Naslavia comments that that old man was also very worried about him, and only calmed down after the rector said he would be fine and that he was recovering quickly. The protagonist wonders why he had to act so conspicuously, almost as if he wanted people to question who he really was. Ray explains that he is the instructor of the martial arts club and asks why Kyle is also there. Kyle replies by asking why he joined the medical club and explains that he has always been interested in medicine, so he took the opportunity when he got it. Gary says that it is good that he finally woke up and comments that he almost lost his life with all that confusion. The protagonist asks if they moved the dormitories to that place and why Gary is also there. Gary replies that it is nothing serious, only that he has not been sleeping well lately and ran out of energy during training. So he came there to rest a little, but Kyle started talking nonstop and he could not rest. Kyle replies that he was trying to understand his illness. Gary says that he already told him he is not sick. The protagonist thinks about the nightmares Gary had been having. Later, at the martial arts club, Ray approaches and asks if he is there. The elder calls him an idiot and asks how he dares come back. The protagonist replies that he did not need to get so angry. The elder asks if he knows what happened and says that if he had not been there at that moment, Ray could have lost his life. At best, he would never be able to use chi again. Ray says that it is all right and that he understands. The elder comments that he does not want to praise him, but being able to accumulate that much chi on the very first day is something impressive. The protagonist asks if that means he has talent. The elder tells him not to start getting full of himself now, and tells him to let him teach him how to control chi. He explains that chi must be kept the size of a fist every time, neither larger nor smaller. After he gets sufficiently used to that, they can move on to the next step. Ray thinks that after practicing the basics according to the old man's instructions, he managed to use chi to strengthen any part of his body after 5 days. In the following days, he trained to manipulate chi wherever it was needed at the highest speed possible. It was difficult, but he ended up learning a lot. The following morning, at the south gates of the city of Avrion, a knight explains that this will be the first day they go out to hunt since becoming second-year students. He asks them to pay very close attention to what he is about to say because it may mean life or death. There are 3 safe hunting areas where second-year students may hunt. There, they can obtain beast crystals, which are used for trading and for making equipment. There are also some nearby areas where creatures usually breed, and if they want to survive, they had better not stray from the path. In the outer ring of the forest, Lancey also explains that each team will head to one of the 3 hunting grounds before switching positions later. By doing that, everyone will be able to get familiar with different types of magical creatures. Martha comments that according to the information, the hunting ground they are heading to is the insect forest. Dan asks what kind of insects could possibly hurt them. The protagonist notices that there is still something strange with Gary. Naslavia asks everyone to be careful. Dan replies that there is no reason to worry, saying that it looks like just an ordinary ladybug. Kyler asks if he has ever seen an ordinary ladybug the size of a person's head. They begin fighting the insects. Naslavia warns that everyone should get ready because the insects may be weak, but they usually appear in swarms. More insects start getting closer and Martha uses the bow. Kyle and Dan fight against the insects. Kyle comments that those things are disgusting and that they need to drive them away. Dan asks how those creatures can be so agile. Naslavia notices an insect approaching in her partner's direction and shouts for him to be careful. The protagonist releases chi, concentrates the power, and finishes the insect with a single blow. Kyle is surprised to see that he has already learned how to use chi, and Ray confirms it, telling them to let him test the results of his training. Dan tells him to stop showing off and use a weapon already. The protagonist asks what happened. An insect attacks Gary's arm and leaves him badly injured. Ian immediately cuts off the ant's head and asks whether his partner is all right. Gary answers that he is fine and apologizes for worrying the others. Naslavia looks at the wound and says that it is not deep, fortunately, so she asks for help removing his armor and giving first aid. Gary thanks her. Ray watches from a distance and begins to wonder what is going on with him and how he managed to get hurt by an entry-level creature like that. He thinks that Gary has also been stressed lately and decides that he needs to ask what is going on when they return. Dan comments that the wound healed very quickly and asks if he learned that in the medical club. Tyler explains that it is chi, which not only strengthens the body and weapons, but also helps the cells recover faster, so it can be used for simple first aid. The protagonist thinks that it seems he is not the only one who learned some new tricks, and that he needs to work harder. Naslavia keeps taking care of Gary's wound. After that, still in the same place, Dan comments that after all that, they only got one entry-level beast crystal, and that at that rate, they might not even manage to reach the tax limit that day. Ray asks about that tax. Dan asks if he did not read the instructions and explains that they have to hand over 1/10 of their gains when they obtain beast crystals in the hunting grounds, except if they get fewer than 10. The protagonist says that he did not know about that rule. Dan asks how he did not know and says that this is how the academy works, adding that there are many other places where he will have to pay taxes later on. Ray thinks that he needs to find a way to get past Lancey with fewer than 10 crystals. Later, at the entrance to the hunting area, Lancey asks how he managed to get only 5 entry-level beast crystals while being the last one to leave. The protagonist replies that maybe he just did not have that much luck. Lancey says that he is trying to fool him and tells him to take off the equipment. After Ray removes the equipment, Lancey asks if he found anything hidden. Then he says it is impossible, that he must have hidden something somewhere on the mountain, because he has seen crafty people like him before, and that if he finds out he was hiding beast crystals, he will regret it. The protagonist replies that he can keep everything he finds and that he does not need to worry. Lancey answers that he had better really be as incompetent as he seems, or he will never see the end of it when he gets caught. The monk asks how he did that and says that he definitely has more than that. Ray replies that it is a secret. He thinks that he discovered this a long time ago. After he saves beast crystals in the system, the real-life crystals turn into useless stones, while the system always gives him crystals directly after hunting magical beasts. Meanwhile, everyone else has to find the magical beasts' bodies to remove the crystals. To avoid raising suspicion, he asks the system not to extract the crystals automatically. The system asks whether he wants to absorb the crystal. The protagonist thinks that on top of that, the crystals cannot be removed from the system after being stored. Since he needs some of them to trade in shops, he left only 5 behind, so he does not need to hand them over. He did not expect to be able to evade taxes that way. He thought the system did not work with already forged weapons, but he never imagined it would absorb the crystal from an ultra beast that way. He concludes that he needs to be a little more careful because if Delbert finds out, he definitely will not leave him alone. The protagonist says that they should head back too and asks what happened, whether he left something behind. He calls out to his partner. Gary says that he needs to open the red door. Ray asks what this red door is and what he is talking about. Gary starts screaming no. The protagonist tries to calm him down. The monk notices that their partners are not arriving and asks where they are. Dan replies that they were right behind them a minute ago and asks where they went. The monk says they should go back first and that he will look for them. Naslavia asks him to wait and says they will look together. The monk replies that it is all right and that he will be back soon. On the other side, the monk approaches and asks what happened to the two of them, saying that the rest are already well ahead. The protagonist replies that Gary is not doing very well right now and that he is talking about a red door. Gary repeats that he needs to go to the red door because that voice is calling to him. The monk asks about the red door and wonders whether he is talking about that place. Avrian Prison. Somewhere else, the protagonist begins to wonder what kind of place that is. A voice says that he finally arrived. Ray is very confused, and the voice says that it has been waiting for him and that now it will tell the hidden article of history, the secret of this world. The protagonist asks what that thing is. An extremely strong light is emitted and the pressure rises. Ray wakes up and wonders if it was only a dream, thinking that it felt far too real. He wonders if that red door could be the same door from Gary's dream. Before that, still in the forest, the monk says to take him to the hospital. The protagonist asks what kind of nightmares Gary has been having. Gary answers that he does not remember. He explains that he just passed by that place and looked at the doors, and after that he started having nightmares every night. Whenever he wakes up, he cannot remember what he dreamed, but he feels an infinite fear. He says that something is calling to him from the other side of those doors, and that the feeling is getting stronger and stronger, as if he needs to go there and take a look. The monk asks if he has gone insane and says that place is absolutely forbidden, and that he will be expelled if he enters it. Gary replies that he knows, but there is no other way. If this continues, he will be tortured to death by the voice inside his head. The protagonist says that it is all right as long as no one finds out. The monk replies that this is not only about being expelled because he could even lose his life in there. Ray says that there is a chance the abilities they learned will work under the cover of night and asks whether he is going to join them. The monk asks if he is joking. Gary says that it is all right and that he does not need to worry about it, adding that he is already very grateful that he is willing to go with him. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new content. Thank you.